The recording, please. Good evening and welcome to the February 2nd, 2023 meeting of the Cohasset Conservation Committee. I'm Chris McFarland, Chairman of the Conservation Committee, and will be running tonight's meeting as we implement the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and the Cohasset Stormwater Management and Wetland Protection Bylaws. We'll be operating tonight's meeting using a Zoom platform and ask the public who wish to speak to enter their questions, comments, or concerns in the chat box. Please include your name and address. Only those who include their name and address will be recognized. Present this evening on behalf of the Conservation Commission are our Conservation Administrator, Angela Giso, and the Town Conservation Agent, Charlotte Patel. I will now take a roll call of the commissioners. Please respond by repeating your name and saying present. Will Ashton.
Will Ashton present.
Tom Bell.
Tom Bell present.
Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan present.
Eric Eisenhower.
Recently present. I'm here now.
Thank
Sorry
you.
for the delay.
Chris McIntyre.
Chris McIntyre present.
Chris McFarland present. Tonight we have a quorum of 6 commissioners. We'll be taking all votes via roll call with commissioner answering yay, nay, or abstain. Our first hearing this evening is a new hearing. I'm going to read it into the record and then I'm going to recuse myself and Tom will run the hearing. This is a notice of public hearing for 81 Fair Oaks Lane. In accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetland Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, February 2nd, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform for Notice of Intent 23-03 and Stormwater Permit 23-03 for Olga and Josh Britton to construct an addition at 81 Fair Oaks Lane. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Tom.
Thanks, Chris. Charlotte, can you give us a brief synopsis of what we're looking at tonight?
Yeah. So we have Jeff Hassett from Morse Engineering and Josh Britton, who's the owner, on the call too. So this is a notice of intent and an administrative stormwater permit. And just to clarify the process real quick, the administrative stormwater permit technically has a slightly different time frame, 21 days to review. But again, for any reason, if we wanted to continue, we just need the applicant's permission. So this will be a deck and addition project in the back of the existing home. And Jeff, I don't know if you want to pull up in the site plan while I'm talking, but it's a partially in the riverfront area. And I believe we do need a variance since the project will alter a little over 1,000 square feet of riverfront area, but it has been previously disturbed.
Okay, Jeff, tell us.
All right, thanks for the intro. Here on behalf of the property owners, Josh and Olga Britton, and they own the property at 81 Fair Oaks. Their property is about 0.84 acres in size. It's developed with their single family home here, which is set back off of Fair Oaks at the bottom left side of the page with a driveway that comes back to a 2-car garage underneath. The property slopes from Fair Oaks back towards the rear of the property. There's a stone wall along the property line here. And then offsite to the rear is Town of Cohasset owned land with a BVW and a riverfront area. So the work that they're looking to do, they're proposing to put an addition off the back of their house. It extends 12 feet and it's a 4-season room at one level with a patio beneath it. All the roof runoff will be captured at the downspouts and put into a roof drywall system located right here over on the side, off to the side. As far as setbacks, the 100-foot buffer to the BVW is in green. So you can see we intentionally kept all the work outside of the 100-foot BVW buffer. The riverfront area is back here with the 100 and 200. So all the work is outside of the 100-foot, but just inside of the 200-foot riverfront area. The work within the riverfront area includes the addition and hardscape steps going down to the lower level. And that results in 305 square feet of impervious in the riverfront area. And then the total disturbance being the area from being regraded and the dry well is 1,589 square feet. So we are asking for a variance. We're well under the allowed limit under the Wetlands Protection Act, but under the town regulations, you have a maximum of 1,000 square feet. The reason we feel that this project and property is should be granted that variance is that it does meet the it won't have any adverse impact on the interests of the bylaw. What I mean by that is erosion control will be controlled, so there won't be any migration of sediment towards a wetland during construction. That's because there will be a double erosion barrier at the limit of work, stockpiling outside the limit of work, and this small area of disturbance will be immediately replanted and stabilized afterwards. The total disturbance, both inside and outside of the riverfront area, is about 3,300 square feet. So it's not a very big area. The next interest is water quality. We're protecting the water quality by, again, collecting roof runoff and promoting recharge on the property. There's little significant wildlife habitat in this area, being that it's the area immediately adjacent to the house, which was, had to be disturbed when they built the house. There's also stone walls immediately behind the house. So it's not a pristine wildlife habitat by any means. And aesthetically, it's a nice looking addition. And this house is set back further than the other houses on Fair Oaks Lane. So this addition on the back of the house won't be visible from other houses. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions. I'll pass it back to you.
Do any commissioners have questions? So my only question is the degree of prior disturbance. Jeff, you referred to some that had taken place, obviously, when they constructed the house initially. And so I suppose it is technically disturbed ground to begin with. Just could you, is there a photograph that we can see of the back of the house, Charlotte?
Yes, I can pull that up. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I have one right here on the plan.
Oh, there you go.
Okay,
Mine has snow, so yours is a little better.
so
I was gonna say I thought it was raining, but it must have been a different day that I took this picture.
so it looks like there's an all-season porch there on the right. Is that correct, Jeff?
That's correct. That will become part of the full living area with the addition.
And so is the footprint going to change? It's not clear to me that it is. I'll apologize for not having looked very carefully at the plan, but you're staying within the existing footprint? Or
No, the addition comes 12 feet off the back of the house.
Okay, so it's going to wrap around that fireplace?
It does, yes.
Okay. And
Yeah, it's a 4-season room at this level here, and underneath is a patio. So it's all windows looking back towards the woods on this side.
I see. So there's no habitable space under there. The first floor is just open, right? Open to the weather.
Down here at the basement level?
Yeah, yeah.
That's correct.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Charlotte, do you have any comments?
No, so some of my comments, at least initially, were, just making sure that since this is kind of a downward sloping area, I suggested we kind of double up on erosion control. And then just to clarify to the commission, some of the ledge that you see in here, will be removed for the addition in the deck. And so I had, I asked for Jeff to clarify that on the plan, just so that it was clear. But other than that, other than the variance request, if the commission would, want to grant it, those were my initial comments with erosion control, ledge clarification, any tree clarification. And Jeff, I think there is one tree, but it's like the small one that's right by the existing stairs and deck. Other
Yeah,
than
you
that,
can see it in the corner of the picture
Yeah.
right here. It's a cherry tree.
Yeah.
So Jeff, the large stones that form this retaining wall, those are going to be rearranged in some way?
They will be. They'll, they kind of taper in closer to this corner, and
Uh-huh.
they'll follow about here.
So you're going to have to get into the riverfront with an excavator or an end loader of some sort to lift those up and rearrange them. Is that true?
Yeah, so we have, this limit of work will be, clearly defined with a mulch stock and a siltation fence.
Mhm.
This will be the area that will be disturbed, where they'll bring an excavator down from this side and dig a footing for the here, put in the dry well, move the dirt around to make it a flat area just beyond. But all that erosion will be contained within that erosion barrier.
So I guess I don't see quite how that works because I see a staircase there that is over the top of those stones. Is that right?
Yeah, they'll work their way out. They'll have to get in here and, do that work here before they build the hardscape steps.
Okay, when you were describing how they were going to get their excavator down the hill, you were waving your cursor around on the northwest side of the house. Is that how it's going to go?
Yeah, that's correct. It will be tricky to get into this backyard. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to drive the excavator, but they're going to have to get back here.
You don't have an operator's license, Jeff, do you?
No, thankfully, I'm not signing up for it. But basically, they're going to have to make a path to get right through here, down to the backyard, and then these steps would have to be constructed after they've worked their way out.
Oh, I see. So, all right. So I'm still kind of digesting the plan here. Okay. Yeah. So I thought those steps were in place, and I'm looking at the satellite image, and I don't see anything like that. And I didn't realize this screen porch there is. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the screen porch is here, and the existing steps are here. So I would remove these steps, maybe even remove the porch to get better access.
Yeah. Okay. So really, the if there is an issue, it's just bringing heavy equipment into the riverfront to do this. But it looks like you have the limit of work pretty well mapped out and as small as you possibly can make it. So I don't see a problem with it. Does anybody else have any questions again?
I do. Jeff, could you show me exactly on the photograph where the ledge is that's going to be taken out?
Yep. I don't think ledge is the right word for it. There's no ledge expected on this property. It's these boulders or
Okay.
big stones here are going to be realigned.
Okay, that's what I was wondering because I didn't see the ledge. Okay, so it's the stones. Both of them right there where you pointed and then further
Yeah,
up
both of
north.
them, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So there is no exposed bedrock here. Is that right?
That's correct. And we did do a test pit right here.
Uh-huh.
Shallow, we got down about 3.5, close to 4 feet. But it was nice sandy material.
Okay.
Jeff, do you have to remove any trees or vegetation in the riverfront area for for your dry well or anything else?
No, the only tree that's being removed for this project is a tree right here that's a little bit less than a 12-inch caliper, and it looks like a cherry tree. So an ornamental right at the corner there.
It looks like at least the trunk is just outside the riverfront, but the canopy extends over it. Are you going to replace that tree with something?
We had spoken with the Britons about maybe planting some river birch along this area.
Mhm.
So they would like to plant 3 river birches. So I'd be fine with committing to that.
Eric, is that an appropriate tree, you think?
I believe so, yes. maybe the condition could be river.
Eric,
birch,
you're muted.
I believe they are, but maybe it could be conditioned on 3 native trees from your approved list.
Are river birch native here?
I'm not an expert in it. I believe they are, but I'm not going to say for sure.
Okay.
Tom, I don't have the list in front of me, and I'm just getting on board right now. I've had some problems digitally joining you, and I can't answer that question right now. They would survive there, but whether they're native or not, I'm gonna have to get back to Jeff.
I think our river birch is on our list, but I can't speak to the second part of if they'll do well in that area. But river birches, paper birch, black birch, yellow birch, I
That's
think are
fine.
all on our list.
If you confirm
Great,
that,
thanks, Charlotte.
yes, I can confirm they'll do well there.
Let me just double check. Yes, so we have river birch, gray birch, black, paper, and yellow birch is all on our list. For river birch is actually for wet or moist soils, so that area, since it's, downhill, might get a little wet, so maybe they'll like that, wet soils.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
it looks
don't
like if it goes in at the base of slope, you're probably gonna get a lot of weeping along that slope and keep it watered naturally.
Jeff, what is the natural moisture level of that slope? Do you imagine? Could you describe it?
Ooh, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. It's down gradient, so it's seeing a fair amount of runoff. It's also not at the toe of the slope, so the water is still continuing to run off.
The river birch, and I have 4 in my yard, need continuous moisture to survive. They will not flourish if you allow them to dry for a month and a half in the summertime. So I don't know what the expected moisture content of that soil is, but they have to maintain moist soil for them to do well. So
Okay.
if not, I would choose another tree.
So you're probably pretty close to being at the elevation of the floodplain. I don't see the FEMA floodplain marked on here. Is it within the floodplain? I mean, you're right next to James Brook here.
Yeah, James Brook is right here.
Yeah.
The floodplain is not defined by an elevation in this area. It's defined graphically.
Yeah,
And it's back here, but I mean, I think it is a fairly moist area. Gets a good amount of shade.
yeah,
also.
it looks like it probably could be. I mean, groundwater would discharge there as soon as it hit that flat.
Yeah,
kind of
but I would suggest a condition of 3 river birch or other tree from your approved list.
Now,
And
a river birch has the advantage, Jeff, that we are invaded with a great deal of fungal diseases in our normal paper birch. They're dying all around Cohasset. The river birch is the one attractive birch which is not susceptible to the birch borer and the fungus that they carry. So that's certainly an attractive tree in terms of being, surviving the current plague that that's causing the death of most of the birches around Cohasset. So it's a good tree from that viewpoint.
interesting, thanks.
Any further questions? Okay, Charlotte,
Hello.
how should we proceed here? What sort of motion do we need to make? Approval to approve their notice of intent?
So there's 3 motions, one for the notice of intent with or without any conditions, and then one is for the variance request for the greater than 1,000 square foot alteration in the riverfront. And then the last one is an administrative stormwater permit, but the commission can vote on this one since it's tied to an NOI. So three motions.
So are we required to vote on the administrative permit?
Yep. Yeah, normally it would, without an NOI or an RDA, it would just, go through me and without a hearing. But I did talk to council about this one. When it's tied to an NOI or an RDA, kind of gets dragged along. It just has a slightly different time frame. But in this case, it would just be the 3 motions, one for NOI, one for variance, and then the other for the administrative stormwater permit.
Okay, so it seems to make sense to start with the notice of intent.
Yeah.
So do any of the commissioners have any conditions that are in addition to our standard conditions?
All the proposed condition seems good to me, that the tree being removed for the project be replaced with 3 native trees from our list.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve the notice of intent with the additional condition of adding 3 native trees, preferably, but not absolutely river birch. It seems like that's what you've already selected, Jeff, and that seems to be appropriate for the site. Do I have a second to that?
Oh, and then it would be issue and order conditions with that condition.
Yeah, right. Approve the notice of intent with the standard conditions plus the additional condition of replacing 1 tree with 3 native trees. Do I have a second for that?
Second.
And with that, we'll have a roll call vote, starting with Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, aye.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisner, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, I.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. That motion passes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0. Second one is a variance to work within the riverfront. Is that correct?
And for a greater than 1,000 square foot alteration
Okay, so.
of a resource area.
So I move that we grant a variance for the just working within the riverfront area and within the 1,000 feet. Do I have a second?
Second.
With that, we'll have a roll call vote. Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, I.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisner, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. That passes 5-0. And finally, a motion to approve, I make a motion to approve the administrative stormwater permit that's linked to the NOI. Is there anything more to that, Charlotte? Okay. Do I have a second to that?
Second.
We'll have a roll call vote. Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, I.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisner, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. That passes 5-0. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
Good job, everyone.
Thank you.
Did it.
Okay, our second hearing this evening is also a new hearing. It's at 30 Beach Street. I'd like to read it into the public record. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetland Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, February 2nd, 2023 at 6:30 PM via remote participation on a Zoom platform for notice of intent 23-02 for the Hobsons to construct a pier, gangway, and float at 30 Beach Street.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I always want to test my mic. For the record, my name is Caroline Reese from Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors. I am representing the applicant, Peter Hobson, and the homeowner, Susan Putzinger. I believe both are on the phone or on the Zoom and may want to contribute. They are requesting permission to build a dock consisting of a permanent pier, removable gangway, and removable float at their property at 30 Beach Street. And may I share the screen, or Charlotte, can you bring it up? Thanks. I'll talk as we go. It takes a little bit to share the screen. I'm waiting for it. As I wait, the dock will be used to access Little Harbor in the rear of the yard for private recreational purposes. Let's see, there it is. Okay, bear with me. Okay, can everyone see the plan?
No,
Starting to come through,
It's
Caroline.
coming.
That it's a little slow, I know. I can't see any of the screens. Should I keep talking or?
Give us a minute here.
How you doing? Do you see it?
We do
Not
not see it.
No, maybe try again. Stop sharing and share again.
Okay, let me try that.
Sometimes if you have more than one monitor, Caroline, sometimes I always forget
Yeah,
which screen I'm clicking on. So I don't know if you're on the other screen by accident.
No, I only have one.
No, okay.
Oh my gosh, my screen has frozen up.
I can pull it up if that's easier.
You know what? Do you mind? Why I'm a
Yeah, not
little,
at all. You can, yeah, stop sharing and I'll share mine instead.
you know what? My Zoom is completely frozen. I can't believe this. I don't know what.
We still hear you.
I know. I have never had this happen. I apologize.
That's okay.
Okay.
Hold on one
very-
sec.
and we have all night.
Well,
All I
midnight.
see is black.
Speak
the
for yourself.
Zoom. I got the share screen.
Okay, Charlotte's up.
Is it up?
Yes.
Okay, well, maybe I can just talk. I apologize for that. I'll go ahead. The lot is about 15,000 square feet. It's bound by Beach Street on the southerly side, Little Harbor in the rear yard towards the north, and private residential properties to the left and right of the rear sides. They are proposing to build a dock towards the center of the rear of the property to span over the salt marsh. And my screen just came back right now, by the way, and access Little Harbor. The proposed dock is approximately 51 feet long by 4 feet wide, not too tall. It'll be accessed by stairs that would be laid over existing concrete and mason stairs that exist to access the salt marsh. They walk directly on the salt marsh. So that access would be blocked with the dock. A 3 foot by 24 foot removable gangway is proposed and a 15 by 20 foot removable float. The float will sit on 18-inch skids because it's not a designated shellfish area that will run parallel to the dock so they can move. What else? The entire lot is in land subject to coastal storm flowage with VE12. And I think that's about it. We have 10 feet of access for pedestrians at mean high water, maintaining a minimum height there of 5 feet. And we also have about 20 feet of railing proposed from the seaward end of the dock towards the property where the dock is pretty high. It reaches a max height of about 12.2 feet at the seaward edge, including the railing. So we felt railings were necessary there. And with that, I'd open it up or pass it back for questions, I believe.
Can you show us the section, Charlotte?
I should say 14 piles, foot max diameter, and about 10 in or bordering the salt marsh.
Caroline, did we hear from DMF for this one yet? I know you
Heard
were
from
waiting on comments.
DMF at 4:30 today, this
Oh,
afternoon.
nice.
Very
Okay.
late, so I just had time to print the letter. We'll have to, they're pretty much the standard recommendations, they say. You know, looking for a little more lighting with the 1.5 to 1 ratio. Here the dock is very high, and I think Susan's father lives there, who's older. I'd rather maybe offer more spacing between boards, but the standard comments, I can, if you want me to go through those quickly.
Yeah, sure. If that's okay with the commission.
Do you want to
Mr.
hear
Chairman?
me try to summarize them?
I'm sorry, this is a legal hearing. I would like to see that letter, please.
Yeah, it just arrived today, so.
That's fine. Then maybe we should not
Wait.
consider it today. Maybe
Gotcha.
we should come back in 2 weeks, but I would definitely like to see a copy of it. That's how we run this show, Kathy, right? I think we do, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
That was gonna be
complete
my comment as well. I saw that the application was in with Department of Marine Fisheries, and I personally would want to see their feedback as well and their recommendations.
I'd wonder if, is the float consistent? And this is just a general comment, is it consistent in size with what we've been seeing at Little Harbor recently? It's 15 by 20.
It's
That's
fairly, I think it's fairly large
Yeah.
compared to others, but I'd defer to Charlotte on being able to.
Yeah, I
compare
can
them.
pull up, a couple examples. I know some of the other ones in Little Harbor were smaller, either like 10 by 12, or some of them I think may have been even smaller, but I have to double check that. And then sometimes it does depend on DMF and or DEP for a waterways license. I've seen them kind of play with the size of the float as well. I don't think there's been a consistent size, but Caroline, if you remember any of the dock projects that Merrill's recently worked on for Little Harbor, I think this is a slightly larger than average size than from what we've seen recently.
To check with Carmen, I think maybe 12, but size, I don't know if that is an issue. Are you worried about the skids? I think if 50, I know one on Little Harbor was 12 by 20. I
Okay,
don't know if that's 51 gammons or
okay. Let me look. Sorry, give me one moment. I'm gonna check
My
the gammons
recollection
one.
is the last time we saw an application for a dock, it was large, and we requested that they reduce the size, and I don't remember what the starting size was or the finished size.
I have an opinion on this, if I may state it. I walk down that street at least once a day. I know the view from next to that property. It's over wetlands, unobscured. This is probably the most attractive and appealing view of Little Harbor that exists, except possibly from Cunningham Bridge. What we're doing here is building this outrageously high dock, this man-made structure, right in front of what I consider to be the Cohasset's most attractive natural view of one of our greatest water assets, all right? And I cannot think of a worse place to build something like this. People all day go driving down Beach Street, looking to the left in order to see Little Harbor. And right in the center of that view will be this outsized construction. And if you look at what we're supposed to protect in way of aesthetics, which is the naturalness of the wetland areas, this certainly doesn't even come close to making an attempt to achieve that. So that's my view.
Isn't there a requirement that the dock be a certain height so that people can pass under it?
Yeah.
I don't think
People and
that's
wildlife,
discretionary
yes.
at all.
That's true.
Yep, it's
So-
the minimum height at, the landward face. We're just making the 5-foot clearance, no more.
Yeah.
And DMF would like to see it higher. It is a relatively short dock. It's 51 feet. Abutters and lots of people on Little Harbor have docks. This is probably one of the shorter ones. But yeah, we are held to that, and we will be going, if this is approved, for a Chapter 91 general license, which will require that 5-foot clearance.
Yes.
So it's a balance between, it does taper down a little, but you don't want a steep drop on a dock that's only on the walkway that's 51 feet and only 4 feet wide.
Caroline, sorry to interrupt. I did pull up I pulled up 51 gammons and 55 gammons. Those are some of the recent docks within the last year that we approved in Little Harbor. And I apologize, it was the size of the outlook portion of the pier that I think DMF and or DEP had comments on, because there was a 6x8 and an 8x8 portion of the pier that was kind of like a lookout before it got to the gangway and the float. But to answer the commission's question, so the most recent sizes that we've seen for the float are 12 by 16 for 51 gammons. And then for 55 gammons, it was 10 by 20. And the proposed float stop set to be 2.5 feet above the substrate for 55 gammons. That was one of the more recent ones that we approved within the last year. I'm trying to find a more recent one in Little Harbor, but gammons is the first thought that came to my mind. So yeah, 10 by 20 foot and 12 by 16 for the size of the
So
floats.
this is 300 square feet and the others are approximately 200 square feet. Is that?
Oh, math is, hold on.
Yes, that's
Yes.
correct.
Yes.
That's correct.
Sorry, Charlotte. Didn't mean to put you on the spot there.
No, that's okay. My brain is
Get it
like, okay,
down.
yeah. So 15 by 20 this is 300 square feet, 10 by 20, 200, and then 12 by 16 is 192. So yeah, about 200 square feet on average,
Yeah.
plus or minus.
So this is 50% larger than what we've, and I believe that in each of those cases, they proposed larger floats. And
Right,
we requested that they reduce the size.
correct. Carolyn, do you see any issue by the applicant to reduce the size of the float?
I don't. They're both on the phone, the homeowner and applicant Peter. They could chime in if you want to let them, but I would imagine they'd be amenable to that.
Okay.
If Peter or Susan want to raise their hand and ask if a slightly smaller float.
Charlotte, could you promote Mr. Hobson, please?
Oh, I think he's on the call. Hi, can you hear
Yeah,
us?
I'm here. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Yeah, I don't want to speak for Susan, but I think a smaller float would be fine. I also like to add too, I think maybe it's important to note that, and Susan could probably fill in more detail, but we're sure that there was some sort of a dock or access to the water there at one time when the house was originally built. I'm sure it didn't look like what we're designing now, but I just
how
wanted to
old is
mention
the
that.
house? How old is the house, Mr. Hobson?
It was built in 1941.
Okay.
Is that right, Susan?
Yes.
I think you'll find that Little Harbor was very different in 1941.
So
I'm
different
sure.
that they let somebody build a house there, yeah. So it looks, the backyard has a wall with a break in it. And then if you look
I know.
through that break in the wall, you can see pilings in the water.
Yeah.
So we assume that there was some structure there at some point.
What will you be using the dock and pier for, please?
To keep, to be able to paddleboard and kayak and use our canoe from the dock to play in Little Harbor. That's
Doesn't
the
seem very-
opening I was talking about.
Doesn't seem very deep in the photograph.
Tide's out.
Yeah, I know.
When the tide is in, the water comes right to the wall.
And very, very often over the wall.
Correct.
Any comments from the commissioners?
Yeah, I would like to say, we have an obligation written in our regulations, which is obligation number 3, protection of aesthetics, which means the preservation of a perception of the land, which is conducive to natural wildlife in a natural state. A buffer between our resource areas and human development activities. To maintain a relatively scenic impression of our shores, ponds, and streams. And I say every time one of these gets constructed, Mr. Chairman, we are abrogating that responsibility and ignoring which is an important part of our responsibility, which is protecting the aesthetics of Little Harbor and Cohasset in general. And I think this is exactly what we shouldn't be doing. My personal opinion. I would imagine a lot of the commissioners don't agree with me.
Wait, Eric, where are you reading that from, please?
This is page 1, under general regulations for all wetlands, jurisdiction.
Page 1 of the rules and regulations?
Yeah, no, of our regulations. Under general regulations for all wetlands, section 1, jurisdiction, you go to the bottom of the page, it has additional protected interests, which is protection of aesthetics And I just read from that, Chris,
Mhm.
verbatim. And I think we're not living up to our responsibility and by allowing this outsized, very intrusive structure in one of Cohasset's most viewed points of view on a very natural resource, which is Little Harbor. You know, it probably, I can think of fewer areas where one can walk and have a better view of Little Harbor than the area we're talking about here. And right in the middle of that view is this 12-foot high structure at low tide, which to me is just going to be, you know, something which is aesthetically would be unfitting and not suitable given our regulations. So,
Well, thank you for that. Unfortunately, while it is listed as a as a jurisdictional item, unfortunately, it's not backed up by any bylaw that allows us to necessarily say that we're not protecting the resource area because we're not protecting an aesthetic.
I'm not sure what you're saying, Mr. Chairman.
What I'm saying is
yeah.
that we've always approved these in the past, and one of the reasons we've approved them in the past is because our bylaws don't actually give us jurisdiction to we don't have clear guidelines as to what one can say is detrimental or not. So I mean, I'm just saying why. I guess I'm I know you're against these docks, and all I can say is that I just don't know if we, you know, what you're referring to is not a bylaw. It's a more of a something that's not necessary. Charlotte, help me on this. It's not backed up by the bylaws, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
So yes and no. I think it's like the very first section in our bylaw. So it's section 260-1 for purposes. It lists a handful of them. Most of them are consistent with the act, but we actually list a few more. One of them is aesthetics. However, unfortunately, I don't believe we define aesthetics clearly in the bylaws, but we definitely do mention it in terms of a protected interest, at least in our bylaw for aesthetics, recreation, a few others that aren't part of the act, but most of them are most of them are consistent with the Wetlands Protection Act, but I believe we added a few more in this list here. But aesthetics is listed. It's just, I unfortunately don't think it's defined in the bylaw. It is defined in that section that Eric just mentioned in our regulations, though.
I think in the Cohasset wetland regulation, it is in the parenthetical.
Yeah, in the regulations, yes. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, sorry, I was trying to look for it in the bylaw and I didn't see it, but it's definitely mentioned as a protected like wetland value in that section 1 of our bylaw. It's just the regulations is what defines it a little bit more.
You know, in this
And
little town of ours, we have very, very few constraints on people building what they want. As ugly as these things might be, as obtrusive as these things might be, and I'm not just talking about what's going on in this case. This we have here is one of the few things I've seen that says, hey, enough is enough in terms of destroying the naturalness of our gorgeous environment here. We have a chance to do something. And now we're finding legalese to turn our backs on it and walk away from it and say, I'm sorry, it's not in detail. We can't do anything. Well, a lot of things we do are not in detail. It's judgmental, it's feeling. And our job as commissioners is to weigh the pros and cons on things that may not be exactly written down in legal terms.
It's a little late in the day to be suddenly prohibiting docks in Little Harbor as much as you and I might not like to see them. But it's not too late to condition the construction of one, I don't think, so that it's as unobtrusive as possible. And that's where I was coming from with getting back to 200 square feet rather than 300 square feet.
that may be a compromise we have to make, Tom, all right?
Yeah.
In order to live with ourselves here. And I am aware, because I have counted on a satellite photograph, the number of docks in the harbor. Would anyone like to venture a guess how many docks there are in Little Harbor?
20.
Don't really care.
35.
No.
So it's
Well-
not a small number by any means. You're right, Tom, all right?
Yeah.
You can say, why should we pick on this couple to lay down the law? Well, we should have done it quite a long time ago. But
Yes.
a lot of these docks were built before the wetland regulations came into existence.
Mhm.
And these have been renewed year after year, so. And as you know, I have never voted in favor of one of these. I probably won't vote in favor of tonight, but
Well,
these
we're
are-
actually not gonna vote tonight because the first thing that people talked about was taking a look at the fisheries letter. So I'm going to ask the applicant, may we continue this until February the 16th?
Would say yes.
Okay, thank you. Then tonight's hearing for 30 Beach Street is continued until February the 16th.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You don't get a chance to vote against it.
No, you don't.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Our next hearing this evening is NOI 23-01 and 23- and Stormwater Permit 23-01 for 76 Summer Street, which was continued from January 19th.
Sorry, I'm just promoting Jeff Hassett and the applicant Bronwyn.
All right, thank you. Hey, everyone.
Hello.
I'll share my screen here. All right, so since the last meeting 2 weeks ago, we did two things. We submitted some more information on the location of James Brook and also made some revisions to the design itself based on your comments. So the location of James Brook we're showing more clearly on the plan here. And it's defined well, both on plans and in the field. The record plan for the property shows that the property runs 58.39 feet along the edge of James River. It's also described that way in the deed. And then out at the property itself, this is a picture from the property looking back towards Elm Street in the harbor. So you can see the edge of the river here is what we survey verified to be in the correct location shown on that plan. The water is clearly confined to that bank. You know, the area where I'm standing to take this picture is completely dry. And looking into the background of this picture, this is the project, the Harbor Hotel redevelopment condo project that's being built right now. And we reviewed their plans, and they also use the edge of the river right here as the edge of the river, mean high water. So we talked about the water level being lower in this area compared to the harbor. That is indeed correct. And that's because of this floodgate that restricts the flow of the water to the other side of the road. So getting into the plan revisions, we made 4 revisions based on your comments. The first one was we moved the garage forward about 22 feet. The location now sits almost entirely in front of the existing garage, and more importantly, completely outside of the riverfront area shown in magenta there. That's the 200-foot riverfront area. We also moved the patio. The patio was originally proposed to be built off the side of the garage here in the area that's currently a crushed stone fire pit. And we've moved it to behind the garage, which is within the footprint of the old garage and also entirely outside of the riverfront area. And the driveway is 25% smaller. By moving the garage forward, the driveway gets smaller. We also eliminated the second turnaround area or parking area here. So the driveway is now 25% smaller, and we added natural stone aprons at the entrance and at the doors. The third thing we changed at your request is that or the fourth actually, the third was the driveway. We added trees within the existing lawn. Those are called out to be 2.5 to 3 inch native trees from your approved list. In addition to that, we did make 3 other changes. We're now proposing to reconstruct the stone wall that's located right here and reconfigure it to be more square. To reconstruct the walkway from the driveway to the main entrance of the house. That walkway will be pervious, and we have a detail for that. And also adding stepping stones in the lawn going back to the walkway. So those 3 things are partially in the riverfront area. However, the main things like getting the garage out and the driveway out, we were able to accomplish in the patio. And we feel that this project, as redesigned, does meet the interests of the bylaw. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
I just say it's a significant improvement over the first plan.
Thank you.
And Jeff, just to clarify, it looks like that most of the work is now being moved outside the riverfront. And so now you're under that 1,000 square feet for the riverfront, but obviously most of the property, I think, is in land subject to storm flowage, correct?
That's correct. So we do not need a waiver for the riverfront for disturbance.
Okay, yeah, it would just be more than 1,000 square feet in the land subject coastal storm, but that's the entire
Correct.
property, so. Yeah.
Any additional comments?
I'd just like to say, Jeff, I think it's a job well done.
Thanks, Eric.
You listened and you made the changes that are necessary. Well done.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Well, if there's no other comments, Charlotte, we need a variance on this?
For the greater than 1,000 square foot alteration of a resource area for land subject to coastal storm flowage, yes, but not for the riverfront.
And that's, okay. So that's part of that goes along, does that go along with the order of conditions, or is that?
With the NOI,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
It goes
so-
along with that regulation of pretty much 1,000 square foot limitation on any resource area.
Okay, then let me start with the stormwater permit. I'd like to close the public hearing and make a motion to issue a stormwater permit 23-01 at 76 Summer Street. And we have no conditions for that, correct? Right. Do I have a second?
Second,
Having a motion and a second to issue a stormwater permit 23-01, we'll take a roll call. Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, I.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisener, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 6-0-0. Next, I'd like to issue an order of conditions for NOI 23-01. This will be our standard order of conditions. I think all other ones have been already met, correct, Charlotte?
I believe so, unless we want anything extra, but
No. Do I have a second?
Second,
Having a motion and a second to issue order of conditions for NOI 23-01, we'll do a roll call vote. Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, I.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisener, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 6-0-0. And last, we make a motion to issue a variance for greater than 1,000 square foot of alteration within the riverfront area. Do I have a second?
sorry, it's a land subject to coastal storm flowage.
Oh,
Sorry.
greater than 1,000 square feet.
Mhm.
Alteration within land subject to coastal flowage. And also to work within the riverfront, correct? They're gonna actually be in the riverfront.
Yeah, because it would be the resource area or the 50-foot buffer.
Yep. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to issue a variance for 76 Summer Street. We'll take a roll call vote. Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, I.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisener, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 6-0-0. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you.
Okay, our next hearing this evening, I think Jeff's still on for this one. 31 Dolan Lane, it's NOI 22-21 and stormwater permit 22-17. Also continued from January 19th, 2023.
All right, so at the meeting 2 weeks ago, we presented a revised plan that moved all the work outside of the 50-foot wetland buffer. And there were two comments that were requested at the meeting 2 weeks ago. They were, one, to show all of the trees within the limit of work, greater than 12-inch caliper, which is one of the stormwater requirements. So we did that. And then we also added a trench drain at the bottom of the driveway to capture runoff in that area directed into the crushed stone trench at the side of the driveway. Those are the only changes that we've made since we met 2 weeks ago.
So Jeff, can you tell us how many trees are actually being removed because of the construction?
Yep, 54.
54. Ouch. Okay.
Jeff, are all of those 54 greater than 12 inches?
They are correct.
Wow.
I mean, I will say this, it's a big property. I want to say it's over 4 acres, and they have limited the amount of work to, the least possible. These aren't, I think the total disturbance is about 38,000 square feet. So everywhere that's being disturbed is either the driveway and the shoulders, the rain garden, and areas immediately around the house. We're not clear cutting areas for large lawns or anything like that. We are proposing 13 trees along the driveway. That'll be 2.5 to 3 inch caliper when planted native. And also, we originally had this grass depression as being grassed, and at your request, it's now being planted. And we submitted a planting plan for that it calls out 118 shrubs.
118 what?
Shrubs.
Yeah, those are bushes. Right?
Yep.
Once again, how many trees greater than 12 inches are you taking out, Jeff?
54.
54. And how many are you putting in? Less than 12, around 3 inch wide?
13 trees, yep.
Things don't seem to be in balance here, Jeff.
It's currently a wooded area. It's an undeveloped lot. Naturally, there are trees there, and we're making every effort to minimize the number of trees that have to be removed.
Yeah, I was talking to someone who had family in that area, and he was discussed it with his family members. And he said, if you go back 100 years, this was really one of Cohasset's virgin forest areas. So it doesn't surprise me you have 50 somewhat trees greater than 12 inches, because it's basically untouched for many, many decades, right? Which is unusual for Cohasset.
Jeff, do you know by any chance what portion of those trees are in the 100-foot buffer versus just overall? Or sorry to put you on the spot. I was just curious.
I don't have the number for that. The area
Okay.
in the 100-foot buffer is right here.
Yep.
Can you zoom in on that?
Yeah, so this property, it's not entirely relevant, but I mean, that at one point it was clear cut, which we found interesting when we did the survey of the property. There's a stone wall that encompasses all the properties. The one area that's really not a stone wall is here, and we found the old cedar posts with the old wire going through it and running right through trees as well.
Charlotte, I have a question. If I'm not allowed to vote on this, am I not allowed to comment on it either? Or no?
Yeah, sorry, Will, I missed
Okay.
that. So I apologize. Kathy and Will, unfortunately, you have to recuse yourself. Sorry.
Okay,
Should have done that from the beginning. I apologize.
no problem.
You can tell me, Will, what you want to say, and I'll say it.
That's what I was gonna say.
Don't know.
So Jeff, is
Nice.
there any room to plant more than just, how many trees you're gonna plant? 6? 13, sorry.
13 trees.
Yeah, and are you telling us that there's no room to plant anything more.
I mean, what we have, you have two trees at the entrance, and then you're gonna get into an area here of ledge. So
Yeah.
I skipped that area for planting trees. And then we have them, I wanna say every 40 feet on center as you come up the driveway. And then I added another one in the front yard. And then this area will be entirely planted. So there will be, you know, mulch beds and trees right along right along the front of the house as well. But there really isn't any other room any places where I'd want to put trees that are going to, you know, grow large
Well, you said there's 4 acres here,
of woods,
huh?
of woods.
Yeah, well, that's what I guess that's what I was getting to is, are there any breaks in canopy where you might plant trees that would close the gaps in the existing canopy?
There's really not. It's pretty well vegetated.
Yeah.
There's not a ton of under canopy in areas, but there's plenty of taller trees.
I have a question, I think, for the rest of the commission. Is there a way for us to condition this somehow that, you know, right now they're proposing the removal of these trees for the construction of the house? Is there a way for us to condition that they maintain the rest of the, you know, wooded area as that, so that they don't just go and
That would be protected because we're calling out the proposed tree line limit of work to be survey staked prior to construction. So that would certainly be a violation if they go beyond that area.
During construction.
yeah.
But the homeowner could come in and start cutting, right?
No, well, if he goes over 5,000 square feet, he would need a stormwater permit.
Correct. Yeah. So I guess, sorry, Chris, just to answer your question, I believe you were asking about maybe after construction.
Correct.
So obviously inside the buffer zones, definitely not without an approval from conservation, but outside of the buffer zones and the resource areas, of course, just, you know, it would have to be, you know, if they cut down a tree or two, fine, as long as it's not under 5,000, so long as it's not over 5,000 square feet or over of land alteration. So yeah, at least the way our stormwater bylaws are written,
Yeah.
outside of the 100-foot buffer, they're allowed to cut trees without a permit as long as they're not altering 5,000 square feet.
5,000 square feet includes the existing plot, or is it incremental at that time?
So the stormwater bylaws are any activity that alters 5,000 square feet of land or more. So yeah, I would assume that if this person were to do it in the future, they would probably do it within their property. But yeah, it just says any activity over 5,000 square feet or any, you know, there's obviously a couple others that would trigger a full stormwater permit. But for the question of tree removal, they would just have to keep it under 5,000 square feet.
Yeah, but in 10 years' time, if they decide to cut down a mess of trees, it's not considered to be part of this project.
No,
another-
unless
another
if the permit
5,000
was,
square
well,
feet.
once the permits are closed out, it would not, yeah. So as Jeff said, they would have to remain in the limit of work that's approved by the commission. And anything outside of that would be a violation. But once the permits are closed out, outside of the 100-foot buffer and the 25-foot buffer, they would, you know, be allowed to cut trees.
Yeah, do what
if
they
wanted
want.
to.
Jeff, could you show is the entire site on this plan?
It is, yep.
Can you just zoom out a little bit?
So they own this portion here and around.
Mhm.
So that's 4.3 acres. And then they're accessing over an easement, which will be this area.
Okay.
Jeff, is there any reason why the land behind the house and down from that could not be built on in the future?
No, I don't see why not.
Okay, all right.
It's high and dry upland.
Yep.
There's some areas more towards the back of the property that have some kind of vertical ledge faces. But
You can take care of those pretty quick. I mean, I look at this, I'd say in 10 years' time, that area to the left of what we're looking at and above and below it, probably be 2 or 3 houses in there in addition to what we see right now, so.
Oh, I can
That's
tell you,
like an
they
open
they have no intent of further developing this property with additional houses.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I heard that.
Maybe the next person.
Yeah.
All right. Any other comments?
No,
So the only remaining comment I had is, since a portion of this work is obviously over another property, we did get a signed letter from, I believe, Ms. Karcher, saying that she was okay with the project, but since the order conditions, states very clearly that the order does not permit basically, property access, we would need a condition. I would recommend a condition that we need to see a finalized driveway easement between these two properties that should be finalized and recorded prior to construction, just to make that very clear.
Well, wouldn't the building department require that?
Good question on building, but at least specifically for conservation, since our order doesn't really permit work over another property that's not owned by the applicant, I would just recommend that we want to see an easement finalized and recorded. I think Jeff had said that the applicant was open to that too.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that.
All right. Well, if there's no other comments, then I will close the public hearing.
hold on. No, I didn't say there are no other comments.
Well, I
Jeff,
asked.
there are comments. Jeff, you haven't come forth and told us how many trees of 12 inches or more are in the 50 and 100-foot buffer zone. Do you have that information? I'd like to know that, because I think in principle, each of those should be replaced one for one. And I don't have that figure now.
Okay, there's no trees in the 50-foot buffer because, we're not doing any work in the 50-foot
Yeah,
buffer.
okay.
And I can count the trees.
Jeff, sorry to make your life difficult, but were the trees in the 100-foot buffer surveyed altogether, or was it just the 12-inch caliber or greater?
12-inch caliper.
Okay. Can double check the wetlands regulations, but normally we care about all the trees.
All trees.
There are 17 trees in the 100-foot buffer.
Of more
Greater
than 12 inches.
buffer. So I'm proposing 13. If you wanted to condition to add 4 additional, I could find a home for them.
I think the issue here is if this was another project, we would ask that all trees, 6 inches to 12 or whatever the minimum would be, should be replaced. So that's our policy. I don't know where we stand on that here.
I don't believe it says anywhere in the Wetlands Protection Act or the town bylaw that you have to locate the individual trees
No,
other than under the stormwater bylaw.
that's okay.
Yeah, I think it's just, the removal or the alteration of anything
Yep.
in the resource area of the buffer, and it includes the cutting or destruction of trees, vegetation, but I'm trying to find anything, I don't recall, like a replacement or a one-to-one replacement or anything, but we normally do issue that as a common condition, at least for RDAs, like if someone's requesting to cut down a tree, we normally, request that the tree be replaced, or a tree be replaced somewhere in the buffer zone.
I also think you were very clear at the last hearing that just locate the 12-inch caliper trees within the limit of work, which is, exactly what we did.
The 12 inches, that has to do with stormwater. It's got nothing to do with the wetland regulations. All right, in the past, we've talked about 6 inches, and I admit there's nothing in the regulations that says 6 inches, but that's been the way we've looked at it. That's been our sort of common policy, Jeff, all right?
I can think of numerous cases where we did not locate trees smaller than 12-inch caliper in wetland buffers.
That's an oversight.
Well, and our regulations don't require them to identify trees under 12 inches in caliper. We've discussed areas about it before, but it's not required. So Eric, if Jeff has agreed to add 4 more trees to make for a one-to-one replacement in the buffer zone, is that acceptable?
It would be to me, Chris, if we can assume that there's not room for more trees because of ledge or shade or the topography of the leaf cover and all of that. And I don't know, I can't answer that question myself. 17 trees is a lot, all right? But I have to become familiar with the site to answer the question, whether additional trees could be added safely and in a healthy manner. I don't know.
And Jeff, just to clarify, I don't think it would serve the rain garden any function to plant large shade trees in there, right? Like,
No.
was the plan mostly shrubs and grasses and perennials in the rain garden? All native species?
Yeah, 118 shrubs.
Okay.
I would say the only place you could possibly add additional trees, if we decided to do that, is to the left and behind the house. All right, there does not seem to be any new trees going in there. Am I correct, Jeff?
Right, that's kind of where I envisioned we'd put 4 in this area.
Suppose you up that to 8 trees in this area.
Oh, if that'll make you happy.
That'll make me happy.
All right, 21 trees to be planted.
Thank you. Oh, that's okay with me. Everyone else has to agree. I'm just one vote.
Well, Jeff's agreed, so more trees, the better.
Absolutely.
Hopefully my client doesn't make me buy them.
Your client could buy 1,000 trees like that. I wouldn't even dent his wallet.
Okay, with no other comments, I'm going to close the public hearing and I'm going to I'm going to start with the stormwater permit. Make a motion to issue a stormwater permit 22-17 at 31 Dolan Lane. Do I have a second?
Second.
Having a motion and a second, we'll take a roll call vote. Will Ashton?
Can't vote.
Oh, sorry. Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisner, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
McIntyre, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 4-0-0. Also issue a order of conditions for NOI 22-21 with the special condition that 21 new trees. Can't remember what size you said, Jeff. We're on your plan.
2.5 to 3.
2.5 to 3 inch caliper species to be chosen from the Cohasset Conservation Commission plant list will be planted to replace those as mitigation for those which are removed from the buffer zone. Do I have a second?
Do you
Second.
want to do the easement one? The easement condition?
I haven't gotten there yet. Oh, add that
Yeah.
as a condition. Oh,
Yeah.
and second condition being that no work will be performed until legal notification of the easement across neighboring property is provided to the Conservation Commission. Do I have a second?
Second.
Having a motion and a second to issue order of conditions for 31 Dolan Lane. We'll take a roll call vote. Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisner, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 4-0-0. Do we
Right,
need,
thanks, everyone.
is there any variance necessary on this?
I don't believe so, Jeff. You moved everything completely out of the 50-foot buffer.
Yep.
And we're not dealing with any work directly in a resource area.
Okay. Here you go. Thanks, Jeff.
Charlotte, let me before we go, the limit of work does not enter the 50-foot buffer, does it?
No. It's
Okay,
like
so-
literally just outside of it.
Okay, so there are no tractors or trucks or anything impinging into the.
There
50
should
foot
not
buffer.
be, especially with the limit of work clearly defined. There definitely should
Okay,
not be.
thank you.
Okay. Our next hearing this evening is Stormwater Permit 22-34 at 94 Black Horse Lane, continued from January 19th, 2023. When we left this hearing in January 19th, I think we'd pretty much covered everything. I don't know if the applicant has any new words to share with us.
Sure,
Chair McFarland, I'll be brief. Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Brodsky, and as you know, I represent the applicant KD Custom Homes. Carmen Hudson is our engineer and is available to answer questions. And Nino Januno is the manager of the LLC, is stuck on a flight. But you're correct. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank Ms. Pechtel and Mr. Weissite for spending close to an hour with us, working back and forth to negotiate what I hope are mutually agreeable conditions that addresses both the commission's concerns as well as the applicant's concerns and what we think is a fair resolution under the stormwater bylaw and regulations. So I just wanted to just take the moment to thank them for taking that much time. And with that, I'm happy to turn this over to Ms. Pechtel or to the commission to review those conditions.
So, Charlotte, is everyone available for this hearing tonight?
Yes.
Okay, so would you like to read the, so Charlotte and town council worked with Mr. Brodsky to come up with conditions for this stormwater permit. And Charlotte's got them up on the screen now. I'm gonna just ask her to read through them just to make sure there's no
Sure.
concerns on anyone's part before we take a vote.
Yeah, so just to give a quick recap of the last hearing, these first two conditions we had talked about. One would be that, we discussed that no site work whatsoever shall commence until such time as the applicant obtains all other permits and approvals required from local boards or permitting authorities. To the extent that any changes to the site plans approved through this permit occur during the review of this project by other local boards and or permitting authorities, the applicant shall submit amended plans along with a request for an amendment to this permit for consideration by the commission. So that outlines some of our concerns from the first couple hearings about project changes. The second one was about the stormwater facilities and the question of who will maintain those perpetually. So we had the second condition that the applicant shall maintain all stormwater facilities shown on the approved plans until such time as the applicant no longer has lawful control of the facilities, at which point the owners of the lots served by said facilities shall assume control and maintenance responsibilities. And that's actually also required in our rules and regulations for basically perpetually maintaining stormwater management systems. And then the last two conditions that we discussed with town council, with Adam and Carmen, that was a lot of this was in regards to the commission's comments about tree removal. And so by looking at the stormwater rules and regulations, unfortunately, there's no one-to-one requirement. But what we did look at were the guidelines from the rules and regulations. And this third condition is actually straight from those guidelines at the end. If anyone's interested in looking at them while I'm reading, it's the soil and recommended landscape strategies. And then above that, there's a section on basically recommended, soil and other types of, strategies to mitigate any stormwater runoff and water quality concerns. So the existing natural vegetation should be maintained where possible, and where possible, existing mature trees, natural rock outcrops, stone walls, etc., should be incorporated into a landscape plan. Native plants or plant species that have been naturalized in the area of the surrounding region should be used. And then plant species listed on the invasive species list for Massachusetts shall not be used. And that's directly from our recommended guidelines in our regulations.
Charlotte,
Oh, sorry.
one of the reasons we defined what native plants were on our list for plants that we would allow to be planted is that no one can agree upon the definition of a native plant. If you type native plants Massachusetts in, you'll probably get 50 different lists. We have a comprehensive list. I think we should take native plants or plant species that have been naturalized out and just substitute the comprehensive list which we have for planting that we're in charge of. They're all native species. They're all adapted to the region. And, it avoids the lack of clarity that these vague terms bring up.
Well, Eric, if I may, this whole section is kind of vague because it's not enforceable. It's just a recommendation. So we could, I'm sure Mr. Brodsky wouldn't mind if since it's just a recommendation, we could recommend using plants from our plant list, but in the end, it's only a recommendation.
I understand
Chair
that. Chris.
McFarland, this is what your regulations require.
I
As you'll
understand.
see in the next condition, we've agreed to come back to solicit the commission's comments on the final landscape plan.
Right.
And you'll see, to make good faith efforts to consider those comments. And so we have every intention to do our very best to make all of the boards in the town as happy as we can. With that said, your stormwater regulation only goes so far. So we're trying to demonstrate our good faith desire to meet you. And it may be perfectly appropriate to use the plants on your particular list, but the way this was written that's what's required in your regulations.
Okay, I mean, I can't imagine, there are no invasive species plants on our list, you know. So-
No, this is just, this is actually pretty much copied and pasted from our regulations. It's all this there's a handful of recommended guidelines for landscape strategies. And so we definitely used that language pretty much almost verbatim into this condition. There are a few other bullets, but these are the ones that we felt
Okay.
were the most, encompassing of the commission's concerns for maintaining, the natural vegetation as much as possible, planting and preserving native trees. But, as we've said, unfortunately, they're just recommendations right now in our regulations. And then, this last one, I don't know if you guys, do you want me to read this one, or have you guys kind of read it while I
No,
was talking?
read through, please, for the record.
Okay. So the last condition is prior to the commencement of the construction of the stormwater permit, the applicant shall submit the final landscaping plan to the commission for review and comments, but not approval, with copies also provided to all other local boards or permitting authorities with jurisdiction over the project. The commission's comments, if any, shall be distributed to all other local boards or permitting authorities with jurisdiction over the project. And then the applicant shall in good faith consider the commission's comments and concerns regarding the protected interest in the bylaw and regulations.
Thank you, Charlotte.
I'll keep this up just so you guys can still peruse it.
So with that, let me just ask commissioners, do you have any comments?
No.
Just making sure anyone in the audience, no. So with that, I'd like to close the public hearing and issue stormwater permit 22-34 with the conditions as just presented by Charlotte. Do I have a second?
Second,
Having a motion and a second, issue stormwater permit 22-34 for 94 Black Horse Lane. We'll take a roll call vote. Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisner, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 6-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
Guys,
Okay, our next item on the agenda is a discussion item for 256 North Main Street stormwater permit. And
so I believe Carmen just jumped off, but I believe Brendan, oh, here we go. I think I see Xander Orem from Merrill Engineering. I'll promote him real quick. Hi, Xander. You here for this one?
you're muted.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. All right. I'll share my screen. All right. So I guess just a brief recap on this project. I know you guys have seen it before, but so this was originally done by Cavanero. The full lot was analyzed. Originally, a stormwater permit was not required because they were below the 5,000 square feet. And this lot was subdivided into two. And then eventually this lot was sold, and then Morse took over the permitting for the new house. They designed two systems. They got a 3-chamber system in the front and then a gravel trench by the driveway. And then the question arose, does the full lot still comply with stormwater regulations? And so what we did is we replicated the Morse Engineering HydroCAD design. And then we took that design and we combined it with the Cavanero areas for the top portion of the lot. And through this method, we were able to prove that the volumes and flow were still reduced when taking into account both lots. And I believe we got some comments from Charlotte that we addressed yesterday. One of the comments was referring to page 15 of the report, which we weren't sure which page 15 was being referred to, but I'm assuming that they were referring to including the letter. So that would be page 13 of the report. And then this is the 10-year event storm calculations. And sorry. It was pointed out that the numbers don't match, but I believe they do. We showed that. So in this report, we're showing the existing conditions, and then we're showing the just the Morse design that they did, and then we're showing the combined Morse and Cavanero. And so for the existing, we're showing a flow of 1.55 cubic feet per second and a volume of 0.112 acre feet, which we show in our letter. And then we also show the combined, which is 1.55 cubic feet per second, and then 0.108 volume, which also matches. And then we have a date on the report, December 22nd, 2022. And then it was asked what detail we're using for the gravel drive, which I believe I have here. So this is a typical detail that we usually use for our gravel driveways. It just shows a 2-inch landscape stone, 12-inch minimum gravel base, and then subgrade. And then it was also asked what curve number we used when we used 91, which is the typical for D soils and a gravel drive. And I believe that's it. I guess I can hand it off to any questions if there are any.
So I think it was my comment, which had to do with page 15, but it's so long ago, I don't even remember why I was asking it. But what your summary here is of a combined stormwater, correct?
Yeah, so we took into account Cavanero and the Morse. So it's all the areas on the lot.
Okay.
I thought part of the question was, could each one stand alone? That both lots were claiming the same removal, or the removal of the same impervious area.
Well, I believe we just,
So
what our understanding was.
did you model each lot separately then?
Well, sort of, but not really. We took, so we took the Cavanero modeling for this lot because Morse just did this bottom lot, and then we combined them both into one because what's going on? We combined them both into one, which I believe was what we were asked to do.
Yeah, but I think what Tom's asking is, did you reanalyze the back lot?
Well, we took, so the house is built at this point, so we had this area.
Yep.
And then we also, I think originally we weren't counting this covered porch, so now we are.
Yep.
So we did that conservative approach by adding more area, and it still worked.
Okay, so you did reanalyze the back lot.
Yeah, we
You
did.
added it to the front lot and then
But we,
showed that the combination of the two did not exceed the pre-development conditions.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. So it's in a way, it's very similar to the Black Horse Lane model where they started with a combined lot and then showed that in its final condition, it still worked. That's basically, but you're right, Tom. I think we expressed concern that they were no longer separate parcels. So, and they were different than how they were shown to be divided earlier on. No, they were shown not to be divided. So I think that's why we raised the question.
Well, if you remember right, they were going to remove the driveway on the west side,
Right.
which was impervious, and the lot in the back claimed that they were removing that impervious part. And when they were combined, the lot, they both got credit for it. So it seemed like it was double accounting.
Yeah, understood. Yep.
So how many stormwater permits are we issuing here? One for each lot, right?
No.
Aren't they separate lots?
How they were filed as a single permit, were they not, Charlotte?
So they were filed in two pieces. One was 256 North Main, which I think this one was applied for first in 2020. And then 258 North Main, the one in the front, was applied for a year later. I believe this is Xander, is this a single lot exemption area? Because I know they were called two different lot numbers, but is it a similar case where it's a single lot exemption? With the,
I'm not 100% sure on that.
okay,
But I know they were split and they have two different house numbers.
gotcha, yeah. No, yeah, they're definitely split now. I was trying to think
Mhm.
back then when the two homes were originally proposed.
I want to say no, but I'd have to get back to you on that.
Okay. But yeah, sorry, to answer the commission's question, it was two separate administrative stormwater permits. The 256 North Main was issued first, and then 258 was issued second.
So when Jeff Hassett presented 258,
Mhm.
he presented it for
Only
that,
as,
for that
yep.
lot only.
Correct, yeah.
So-
And it was just under,
And the application was for just that lot,
yes,
and payment was made for just that lot.
correct.
So in effect, 256 should be operating the same way, no? That it's only that lot, pre and post condition, not added to the other one and then looked at the total.
I think that, yeah, that should be correct. I forget what the, Xander, was it just the 256 North Main lot that was originally analyzed, and then we ran into that issue with, the work crossing both lots? Is that how I understand it? Because this is the original site plan, but it shows the existing home in 258 lot 1, and then the proposed work was only on lot 2.
Yeah, so the lot, I think at this point, the lot was being split. But I think we analyzed the whole lot, but I'm pretty sure we just filed a stormwater report for the 256 because that's where all the new construction was being built.
Right. But they did move the septic tanks with the 258. Yeah. That
And
was probably
this
after
has
they
all been
split the
moved, and
lots.
this house is gone, and that's all been moved over.
So
we don't know how the lot 2 performs. You didn't run a HydroCAD model of lot 2 exclusively, or do I?
Not
No,
exclusively, no.
no, you
We
did
just
run.
we combined them. We combined the two lots into one HydroCAD report.
Yeah, but I mean, you're only applying for a permit for lot 2, is that right?
Yes.
So why would you combine another lot with it? You don't own that lot. You're not going to build on that lot. You're going to build on lot 2.
From my understanding, that's what was asked. It was asked that we take into account both because we originally filed for just because we were originally below the square footage and now it technically be above the square footage. So that's why we did the full report. But if you wanted to see an individual analysis, I'm sure we could put that together.
Well, I thought that's what what we had asked. I don't recall. I'd have to look at the minutes to be sure.
Yeah, I think that's what we asked as well, that we
Yeah.
looked at it separately because Jeff and 258 looked at itself independently.
I think Brendan did that originally, and then we wanted to know based off of the work that was also occurring on the lot below it. We wanted to make sure the calculations still lined up with that additional work that may or may not have been included in the original HydroCAD calculations, I believe, unless I'm getting that mixed up, but at least that's
Yeah,
how I
I-
understood it.
No, the issue was that in the original modeling, Carmen explained that she used a portion of the driveway, the removal of a portion of the driveway
Yeah, in our
as-
calculations.
in her calculations, but they
Mhm.
weren't on
No.
that plot. They were in the bigger plot.
Mhm.
So it turned out that she and 258 were both taking the same reduction.
Mhm.
But then 258 came back and said, look, we're not worried about the overall property. We're just worried about what we did
Right.
and proved that they had met the pre and post conditions.
Mhm.
But 258 has never been able to say that they independently meet the pre and post conditions for 256, right? In the back, 256.
Mhm.
And I think that's where I got confused when I was looking at these numbers, because I think they combined them, but I was only looking at the individual numbers, which is,
Yeah, I think we need to see these two lots as separate entities. And I don't understand really the logic of using somebody else's lot in your calculation at all.
So
because
you want,
they didn't want to run the HydroCAD for
Lot two,
lot two. Because they already had it for the combined lot.
yeah, well,
Right.
I want to see it for lot two. Does lot two make its numbers or does it not?
Xander, do you understand
Okay.
that?
yeah, I understand. And I thank Charlotte for explaining. I am covering from Brendan, so I may not be as familiar with the whole history of what this project has gone through, but
Right.
if I can understand, so the request being that we do a separate analysis just for lot two.
Correct.
Okay,
With the existing and, conditions and just making sure that the calculations aren't surpassing pre-construction.
The pre-construction conditions and now the existing conditions.
okay,
So that, those preconditions included a little bit of that driveway, it looks like, and the structure that had been removed.
Well, this isn't even the actual, can you go to the other page where it shows the new condition? Right, so you can see where the property line is now is just a few feet off the. How's this working? Oh, a portion. What are the limits of the gravel driveway? Do they go between the two properties and on the neighbors?
yeah, it's kind of, they share it, I believe.
Yeah, so the
So that-
258 line pretty much goes right through that turnaround.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So there's an easement there.
Right.
there should be.
Yeah, it's not shown on the map or on the
I
plan.
think both these lots are originally owned by the same person, but I believe one was sold. The 258 one was sold.
So is
to
there a
somebody
legal
else.
easement there or not?
Oh, I don't know. I said there probably should be, but I know originally when these permits were existing or being submitted, these two lots were owned by the same person. I believe the original owner kept 256 or sold it to, like I said, I don't know how to say this professionally, their boyfriend. But the one in the front, I believe, was sold to developer, right, Xander? I can get the name of the applicant, but yeah, but there probably should be an easement if they're being, two different people now.
And it should be shown on the plan as well.
I can look into that with 258 North Main.
Otherwise, they're putting a gravel turnaround on somebody else's property. Well, they are, even with an easement, they're putting.
It's already there.
Yeah, right.
So
there needs to be an easement there to do that.
well.
Yeah, I'm looking at the
and that's-
250.
So that certainly complicates the HydroCAD model, because now some of the structure is on lot 1.
Yeah, and that may have been why they wanted to, we did a combined analysis. Because of something like that, where something is crossing over between both lots.
Yeah, but I don't think Morse, not that I doubt this gravel makes that big a deal, because the whole ground was just chopped up ledge,
Yeah,
or actually it was ledge to begin with, so it's probably more impervious now than it was, but I'm not sure when Morse Engineering presented to us 258 that he actually had that area of gravel. But
how big, how much of it, what's the square footage of that gravel on lot 1 now? Is it,
you got to go back to the plan.
what's the threshold for that?
Square
500
footage.
square feet?
So I have the hydro here. I think they said proposed crushed stone driveway. There's not an area there, but I believe they showed it. Subcatchment driveway, 280 square feet. I think that's the paved.
No, there was the paved driveway. 100% impervious. Right there. 280 on the paved driveway.
Gravel road, 797 square feet for existing. And then
Yeah.
1872.
And
Oh,
that's
sorry,
on,
yeah, so
that's on, this is your combined model, is that right? That we're looking at?
yeah, this is the combined model. So the 1872 would be the combined, so that's the total amount of gravel.
Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me that both of these lots now have changed because the property lines have changed. The conditions of the stormwater permits have changed on both of them, in fact.
Well, yes, but Morse presented his to us.
With that gravel on it?
I don't know.
And
Charlotte, can
and-
you look
and-
back to January the 5th and tell us whether, can you pull up?
And just for argument's sake, let's call that 2,000 feet of gravel. If 1,000 feet of that gravel is on lot 1, then shouldn't they have come back to us, or should they have included?
So I can pull up the plan that Jeff had provided, if that's easier.
Yeah, please.
Sorry, Xander, can I switch with you?
Oh yeah, go ahead here.
So this was the plan that Jeff had presented to us and calculated. Sorry, give me 1 second. There it is. So he was highlighting in green some of this work that had already previously been disturbed from the 256 North Main permit. So he's showing the gravel driveway turnaround, at least in here within the
Yep.
property lines.
Yep.
But yeah,
But wait a minute, where do you see that, Charlotte?
sorry, right in here. So he was showing the
okay.
turnaround. Yeah, oh, sorry, it actually
Oh, I
goes like
see.
this.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out which line is
Yep,
which.
sorry.
So it
So
looks
yeah,
like
he-
most of that gravel is in fact on lot.
At
Lot
least the
one.
turnaround portion is on
The,
258.
the
but
turn, the
yeah.
turnaround is, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so lot one has most of it on it. And lot two has very little of it.
Well, it has the whole drive.
Well, yeah, that's right. It has, yeah, it's the turnaround area where it has most of it. So, geez, what a can of worms.
I was trying to go through the registry to see if I could find the deed. Because the deed should probably say it if it exists.
Well, it seems to me that whatever happened on lot one is not at issue here tonight.
Correct.
So.
In
lot
fact,
two-
we've already issued the stormwater permit for lot one.
Yeah,
But,
Well,
but
so
lot,
check this out. They've already built a house on lot two without a
Yes.
stormwater permit, right?
Wait, sorry, the 258 or 256?
Lot two. I don't know what the address is.
They-
I'm just
well,
looking at the
Is
plan.
lot two, is the lot two the bottom lot?
No.
the
Look at the
bottom,
upper left-hand corner, up all the way to the top there, Charlotte.
Yep,
Right.
so this is
Lot
lot two,
two, portion-
256.
Portion of D5 14-92.
yes.
F.
So,
Family Realty.
Oh,
Trust.
there it is, sorry, sorry,
so
yep,
Okay.
Tom, they had an administrative stormwater permit,
in
Uh-huh.
2020.
but there were so many deviations that they have come back to us for a certificate of compliance.
Yeah,
And that's when we questioned whether or not it still complies, because they broke it apart and they changed what they were doing and everything else.
so the question at hand tonight is, are they in compliance or are they not, right?
For
Lot two.
For lot two.
lot two.
Don't even want to
Correct.
talk about lot one. Lot one isn't before us. Lot two is the only thing before us here.
That's correct.
Okay, so it seems to me that Mr. Oram needs to run his model again
Correct.
based on the pre-existing conditions on lot two. And I guess now pretty much the as-built conditions,
Correct.
and let's see if it complies.
Right. That's the question.
We can do that.
Okay, so then do we need to call people for lot one back? And
We've already given them a certificate of compliance.
I don't think- No, not for either of these. We don't have a COC yet.
I thought that's what Jeff came back for.
No, he came back to justify there was no disturbance of 5,000 square feet for his project.
No, but he also, well, he ran the HydroCAD model.
Yeah, he did, yeah, but he hasn't-
Pre and post.
Mhm. Yeah, he just hasn't requested a COC yet, because
Oh,
obviously
okay,
the
but
work's
he,
still.
but he
yeah.
did present to us that.
He did, yeah, he did show us the calculations.
so maybe we need to look at that again and see whether he included that gravel turnaround.
Charlotte, you could ask to just make sure he did, right?
Yeah,
I can, yeah.
I mean, it shows on the January 5th plan, so I would. think
Yeah,
he
I mean,
can.
it shows he definitely analyzed it within the lines of the, I'll just double check, but I'll say, did you run your model based off of the current property lines? And including this?
so really the question before us is strictly about lot two.
That's
Mhm.
correct.
And without using any of the elements on lot one in your model, you need to come back with a new model exclusively within the boundaries of lot two. And working with the conditions prior to construction as your precondition.
Okay.
Excellent. Great. Thank you for coming. and
Thanks.
Hopefully, let's get this cleared up.
Mr. Chair, did you want to put it on the 16th or do we want to put it on March 2nd?
Well, it's just a discussion item. I don't have to continue.
Yeah, I mean,
do
we can just say, do we want to
Let,
just have
why,
them come
why
back?
doesn't Xander get back in touch with you and let him know when he can
Sure, works for me.
catch up with us?
All
Okay,
Yeah,
right.
we'll
Yeah,
talk,
thanks.
we'll talk. We'll,
Okay.
great.
we'll
Thank you.
convene.
Okay,
Okay.
All right,
Thanks, Xander.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we have, next item is certificates of compliance. You've got 5 here.
Yep, so good news for you guys. I just got one continued. So NOI 19-15 and stormwater permit 19-18 for 187 Atlantic. That one's been continued at least until February 16th. So one off the
Okay.
list. So I'll start with 191 Atlantic Ave. Just to recap the commission, we had a show cause hearing, which we closed out at the last hearing. You know, a lot of concerns definitely related to stormwater permit questions, prior conditions. So we closed that out, and unfortunately there was an oversight with the word COC not being on the agenda, so I apologize for that. But I guess my follow-up question to the commission is, you know, since we've kind of gone over the stormwater stuff, which unfortunately wasn't, there should have been one from the beginning, but unfortunately there wasn't. But, you know, after that, do we have any other concerns other than, you know, the findings that I'd already found? And then just to clarify, the applicant had updated the as-built per my request with all of the updated changes that are now reflected on the as-built plan. So I can pull that up real quick just to show you guys. But I guess, does anybody have any other outstanding questions or comments? I think we had addressed most of them in the show cause hearing. And then I would just issue my recommended, you know, ongoing conditions for a COC if we were to issue one. I believe it is condition 40, no herbicides, et cetera, in the buffer zones or resource area. And then this project did not really have any proposed plantings, so I don't think that one's applicable.
Charlotte, is there any way in the future that we can have people submit an as-built on top of the approved plan?
Oh, like an overlay?
Yeah, because I mean, this
Yeah.
plan tells us nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you try to compare it to
Yeah.
first of all, finding the applied plan for those of us trying to look back, you know, we don't even remember when well, I guess I could look at this, it's 20.06, we could go
Mhm.
back. But it's quite hard to
Yeah.
compare this to that and try to figure out whether or not, you know,
Yep.
and quite frankly, you should be doing the same anyway. So you
No,
should
I do. Yeah. I have to look at, you know, A and B, and I know
Yeah.
the deviations in the document review. And then obviously when I go to the site, I may or may not find other stuff. So yeah,
I
no,
mean,
I mean, that would be
just-
really nice.
I mean, just looking at this, I see a very large, what's labeled as patio deck walk
Mhm.
around the, I don't know where the north arrow is here, but
It's
right,
facing north up, or north of the street.
right. So you see that I mean, that walkway was not on the original plan.
Mhm.
I mean, that's a big area of, I believe it's impervious.
Let me see, brick patio. Yeah. I mean, if there's any degree of separation, but brick,
Yeah, I
believe,
mean,
since it's all
thi-
sealed, it's
This,
probably.
this whole project was presented to us originally as fitting in the footprint of what was already disturbed, but I don't even know where that footprint is anymore. So it's almost impossible to say
Yeah.
that this has, you know, how much deviation is here.
Well, it can be done, Chris. The problem is when we get these plans, they stand in isolation. They don't use real world coordinates for anything here. And so in order to be able to compare what was there previously, say, for example, on a georeferenced vertical image that we might get from a near map, it's a lot of work to actually match these things up,
Mhm.
because there's no reference point. So you have to overlay. First of all, you have to make all the white areas transparent. So you start in Photoshop with one of these things, and then you bring it in and you have to drag it around literally over the top of the structure you want to compare it to, and then scale it correctly. So this takes about an hour It takes
Yeah,
me-
I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
but-
I'm happy
to take one
to,
of these- to take one of these plans and overlay it on, say, Google Earth or something like that. It's a pain in the neck.
Yeah, but Tom, all I'm saying is that they submit a plan for us to review. Right? 2 years later, 3 years later, they submit a new plan. Right? They could easily draw the new plan on top of the submitted plan. It's all in CAD. It's just a layer system.
Yeah, they
yeah,
could.
I can look into that because that would be really helpful for me. Otherwise, I'm obviously looking at two different paper plans or plans on both my screens, and I'm kind of just looking at A and B. I also have a lot of suggestions on how we could potentially improve our regulations on what we'd like to see on as-built, because yeah, I look at these a lot, and frankly, I don't think on average I see a lot of the information that I should. But that's not just for this project, that's for like literally every COC I get.
If they posted one control point with real world coordinates,
Mhm,
it'd be a snap.
mhm. I
Mhm.
can look into that. I think that would be really helpful, especially if we saw the original footprint, just in a
Well, then-
different color.
Then we could overlay this right in near map and we could compare, they have a vertical view. And you immediately would see everything that was inside and outside of pre-existing conditions. Take
Yeah,
about,
that would be nice.
it might take 15 minutes and instead of relying upon them and their CAD system, we could verify it ourselves from what we'll call ground truth, which is a lot better than plant truth, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can look into that. I mean, I do think that I don't want to use the word quality, but I can't find another word for it. I think the as-built can definitely show us a little bit more. At least that'd be really helpful for me, and not just for me, but also for other permitting authorities like the building inspector. It'd be really nice for us to see, a lot more information on these as-built plans.
It'd be trivial to add one point, say the corner of the new house
Yep.
with real world coordinates. And then we
Mhm.
very, very easily verify everything against near map. Because we do get into these conversations where we're looking at, what did this look like 5 years ago? What was the
Right.
lot like? Which trees were there? What trees have been cut? Encroachments, all kinds of stuff would just become very easy for us to evaluate.
Usually, I mean,
Can,
I
can
need
you
to look,
can you bring that drawing back up?
yeah, the as-built or the approved plan?
The as-built.
As-built, yeah. So I believe the engineer had this also stamped by a professional land surveyor too. That is also another layer of, assurance that this plan is accurate, showing the location of the final, product basically. So I would, I believe we say in our regulations, we need to see it stamped by a professional engineer. I would say we need to also add professional land surveyor as well, because they have to go out and locate all this and make sure it's all accurate in the exact location. So that would really be helpful. I think most of them do, and especially with some engineers who are also professional land surveyors, but I would have to double check that. I don't think it's been consistent. It's definitely stamped by the engineer, but whether or not it's always stamped by a professional land surveyor, I think that's something we should look into. I
know,
can double check the regulations again too.
I wonder if those walls and paths aren't in the 50-foot buffer to that wetland.
Which ones?
The ones to the east of the house.
Yeah,
These?
No, the bottom,
Oh.
the other side of the house.
the
Oh, sorry.
southeast side of the house,
House.
Sorry. I'm trying to find the.
right there.
Oh, there it is.
You-
Okay,
no, no,
great.
You had it for a second. Yeah.
Yeah,
So there's a wetland right off the edge of the
Yep.
page,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it looks to me like the pool equipment, which has been moved. I don't think that was where it was. And all those patios, all those walkways and walls and stairs, I think they're all in the 50-foot buffer of that wetland. Plus, I think if you pull the other plan up, I don't think the house was shaped like that before, and that might even be in the 50-foot.
I do see Adam Brodsky raising his hand in the audience. Do we want to promote him to speak?
If you
I can
like.
pull-
Yeah, I think, yes, he's the lawyer
Yep.
for him.
Yep.
Yep.
Hold on, I can pull up the other plan too while he's talking. Hi, Adam. You're muted.
Thank you. I can't tell whether you can see me or not, but can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay,
So when we last met on January 19th, we went through all of the details of the changes, and I did have the project engineer present at that time. And we had answered all of your questions. The problem is that unfortunately the COC fell off the agenda. It was on the prior agenda. And wasn't, and so we anticipated that we would not be again revisiting the specifics, that the commission would simply issue the COC because we had already reviewed all of these issues. So I'm somewhat at a loss since I don't have Mr. Terrarian here to answer any additional questions. But all of the changes are specified in the December 1, 2022 letter with all of the calculations, which items were pervious, which were impervious. And again, the net result was a reduction in impervious. So I don't know what to say other than we seem to be retreading or retracing our steps from everything that we've done previously on this.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. I think that we did look at a bunch of letters. I think I was bringing up some of these points as a learning issue because we have made mistakes. This is an example of one where a lot of things changed over time. They weren't documented well, and now we're 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, trying to understand what we had and didn't have. And what I'm saying is, yes, this probably all is documented in a bunch of letters. It went to previous agents. There's probably very little we can do about it at this time. However, it's worth discussing from our perspective because things have happened and slid through that shouldn't have slid through, period.
No, Chair McCrell, I agree. This is not an instance where we're asking for forgiveness here. This should not have happened this way. So we've said from the very beginning that this should not have happened this way. And to the extent that, that in the future, the commission can use there may be better ways of communicating this information. I'm all in for that. So this is a helpful exercise in that regard. I'm just trying to close this out and move on. But it makes the conversation is meaningful in that respect, and I agree.
So I'm going to repeat myself. I think that a lot of this was handled by previous agents. It was done in writing and not in strongly documented form. I think some things fell through the cracks, like sidewalks that ended up in buffer zones and things like that. And I think in the future, we all have to do something better. But for tonight, we should I think we have to vote on this for a certificate of compliance. So I'll make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 191 Atlantic Avenue. Do I have a second?
We want to add number 40 as an ongoing condition for no herbicides, pesticides, insecticides, et cetera, fertilizers.
Is that not on everywhere?
It's pretty much on almost every order condition.
Yeah, let's put it on
template.
every condition and just be done with it.
Okay.
I mean, maybe just rewrite it so that it says that.
Yeah, I can do that. We can say that this.
If you're within X number of feet of a wetland.
Yep.
Just put it in there.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can modify the wording to say this condition shall survive the issuance of a COC.
Yeah.
And it could just be clear.
Okay, thank you.
So Chris, just as a final point, there is a lot of stuff here that's within the 50-foot buffer, but it's all previously disturbed. None of it was in a natural condition.
Okay.
So there's already walkways here at the old house and landscaping and pool houses, obviously in the 50-foot buffer. So, it's already a disturbed area.
Right. But at the same, yes, and as far as wetland is concerned, you're
Yeah.
100% correct. Whether or not storm, it would have required a stormwater permit at some time is another story, so.
Yeah.
But like I said, I've made a motion. Did we have a second?
Yes,
Okay, so let's take a roll call vote for certificate of compliance at 191 Atlantic Avenue. Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, I.
Eric Eisenhower,
absolutely, yes.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 600.
Thank you. Good night again.
Thank you. Let's move
Yeah.
on. Let's move on to 143 Beechwood Street.
All right, 143 Beechwood. So this is another one where it was a failed septic system project in 2001. They had closed out the Board of Health permit with a COC, but unfortunately the order conditions was just never closed out. So I do have an as-built. I didn't find any deviations from 2001 or today. I walked the site still. I have to do it for every inspection. I didn't see any anything that showed signs of failure. It also recently passed a Title V inspection as of December 2022. So this is just it slipped through the cracks with the order.
Okay, I'll make a motion then to issue a certificate of compliance for NOI 01-15 at 143 Beechwood Street. Do I have a second?
Second,
Having a motion and a second to issue a COC for NOI 0115.
Sorry, did we want condition 35, no herbicides, et cetera?
Yes, I just told you we want that on every
Okay.
one from now
Oh,
on.
sorry. I know I just have to kind of say it, I guess.
No,
in
you
the
don't.
motion. No? Okay, all right.
Put it on.
Okay.
I'll take a roll call vote. Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, I.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisenhower, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 600.
Okay. And then the next one, I'm going to go to 37 Stevens first. So this was a stormwater permit from 2018. I did walk the site with the engineer because we wanted to make sure that the applicant had planted 28 trees. They planted 29. This was a mitigation request from some previous deviations. So we did walk the site. We found mostly river birch, speckled smooth alder, white pine, common juniper, and Atlantic white cedar. So sorry, I'm just pulling up the as-built. But to just go through some of the deviations, a couple of them were noted by the engineer. So I'll just read those first. Sorry, one second. There it is. Okay. So number one, there was supposed to be a proposed 20 by 40 foot pool here. They didn't build it, and they're okay with, if a COC is issued tonight, they're okay with closing this out. I did tell them if you ever wanted to build it in the future, you'd have to come back for a new permit. And then the second deviation noted by the engineer was the project was supposed to have a completely paved driveway going down. So they actually did half and half. They did paved up until here, I believe, and then they switched to a crushed stone. And the engineer said, obviously, with the decrease in impervious, and they still have the crushed stone trenches that were installed per plan along the sides of the driveway, that there's no issue with stormwater, and if anything, improves the conditions a bit. And then some of the deviations that I just noted, most of them kind of had to do with some slight changes in grading, but I did talk about this with Jeff to make sure that this wasn't a concern with stormwater. And he said, for the size of the property and given the slight change in some of the grading around the eastern side of the home, I think this was just a tad higher than proposed. It was supposed to be like 72. So he said, given the size of the property and, just a, couple different in elevation, it's not a problem. That also helps a little bit more because this is pretty steep and comes down, so it actually kind of helps a little bit more. And then also everything is still connected to the homes in terms of roof leaders, gutters, all that good stuff coming from these two systems. So those are some of the changes. Of the grading was slightly higher in this area in the backyard along the eastern side here, and just a little bit in the front around the retaining wall. The retaining wall was also just wrapped around just a tad more. But Jeff said there's no concerns and impact to drainage. The porch here wraps around just a tad, but again, this it's over an area that was supposed to be completely impervious asphalt. So this roof area here doesn't really change much, considering this switch to crushed stone, and then there's still impervious here, so there's really no trade-off if the original driveway was asphalt. And then, so those are some of the deviations that I had noted in my inspection. Does anyone have any other, I'll pull pictures here. Does anyone have any other
The
questions?
the patio and the stairs were as proposed?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, the patio back here. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, this was something that was done originally, not a part of the original plan. So we brought them in for show cause and they had to, give us a new report and everything still lined up. But yes, per the most recent approved plan, this was built per plan.
Okay. Any comments by commissioners?
No.
Make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for stormwater permit 16-01 at 14 Haystacks. Do I have a second? Oh, I'm sorry. Stormwater permit 1823 at 37 Stevens Lane.
Second,
Having motion is second, we'll take a roll call vote. Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell,
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisner, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Ms. McIntyre, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 600. Last one, 14 Haystacks. You're muted.
Oh,
Now
am I
you're-
muted? Oh.
You were for a second there.
Oh, weird. Okay, so I'll pull up the as-built real quick for this one. So this is a 2016 stormwater permit. So this one, just to give the commission a quick history, this has changed significantly since 2020, but a lot of site plan changes were approved by the previous agent. So I'm going by the footprint in 2020. So in 2016, there was a slightly larger footprint. They actually made this smaller in 2020 and it was approved by the previous agent. So just wanted to give that history. So some of the deviations that I noted in my final inspection were the leaching pit right here on the western side of the property coming up along the driveway. It now connects, the roof drains and downspouts now connect to this leaching pit system. It was originally just to kind of take everything coming off the driveway and have the roof drains coming down here through a trench drain and then into the street. So I just asked Jeff, does this additional hookup from the roof area increase anything? And he said no. So there's no concerns on his end with any overflow because it all travels down the driveway through the roof drain connections into the trench drain and out into the street.
No, it's not into the street. It's
Well, sorry, into the into the
stormwater
trench drain here.
depression over here
Yeah.
on the other side. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so there's a trench drain here and then the
Mhm.
stormwater depression.
Okay.
Yes, sorry. So that was just one. And then there were just a couple minor retaining walls. One was added on the southeast side right here and the eastern side right here. But they were mostly decorative in nature. They're really low. I can show pictures if you guys want to see them, but basically they were small enough that they didn't really impact drainage in any way, according to the engineer. The driveway turnaround was supposed to be a little bit larger, but it's just smaller. So again, a decrease in impervious and this southwestern side. And then the front porch was added. It does have a roof area, but since Jeff had clarified that, the original house footprint was supposed to be larger, even with this addition, it's still smaller than the original 2016 proposed house footprint. So he had no concerns with impervious there. And then the stormwater depression was built prior to the new owners taking place. It was constructed slightly differently with more stone than soil, but it's been functioning for the last, however many years. So again, no concerns from the engineer there. And then just so the commission's aware, unfortunately, this plan did not have any proposed plantings, but the applicant did plant a handful of, plants everywhere. So that was just an addition. But other than that, those were my deviations. Does anyone have any questions with those?
Was the pool built per original?
Yeah.
The picture doesn't look the same, so.
No, oh, this is the as-built, sorry. But yeah, they did build this per plan. Oh, and I'm sorry, I did forget one thing. So this leaching pit right here actually wasn't a part of the original design. This was actually an addition that I had discussed previously. on site with the engineer and the builder and everybody. And Jeff obviously had no concerns here because this is basically just adding, you know, runoff connections from the eastern side of the home into this. So this wasn't on the original plan. I'm sorry, I should have noted that first. That's it.
And all those bigger retaining walls out front were part of the original plan?
Yeah, this was existing. This was actually extended a little bit, but Jeff said it doesn't really, if anything, it kind of channels the runoff a little bit more into the leaching pit down the driveway. And but this was also added as additional coverage against the neighbor's property. So they just extended this existing stone wall a little bit up to here.
Where did it, oh, you're saying from where it shows it?
So this was, yeah, this is existing, and then they
Hmm.
extended it to the
Okay.
driveway turnaround here, up
All
to
right,
this
that-
ledge.
That's not a little bit though, just.
No, I know, yeah,
for-
sorry.
For future reference, it's 100 feet.
Yeah, no, sorry, I didn't mean to say a little bit. It was
Yeah.
extended, thank you. But at least when I talked to the engineer, he said that it doesn't impact range. If anything, it actually kind of helps channel it a little bit more. Also, there were some, I believe there were some concerns from the construction going on the other property too. So, and then this is the property that had the several plantings along this side. So kind of both of them amped up their property border.
Yeah. So again, I'm going to just reiterate, we can't tell anything from this, right? The existing grading's not there. The what was proposed previously is not there.
Yeah.
I can't tell anything from it.
Yeah, no,
So-
I full agreement. I have
Yeah.
to, as you know, I spend a lot of time on these.
Well, I understand, but
Yeah,
you know,
no, it's frustrating.
It's concerning that,
Yeah.
you know.
No, I
mean,
agree with you.
You know, give us 2 weeks to look at these things. You can give us the existing and the proposed and every change that was made in between. Maybe we can find time to look at it, but other than
Okay.
that, I don't think we can do much. So I'm gonna.
Do we want to, do you want me to kind of push them out more? Because I try to get them within a 2-week time frame, but if you want, I can try to put them on later agendas so that the commission has more time to look at them. Would that be helpful?
Well, it's only helpful if we have the approved plan.
Yep.
Any modified plans in the meantime.
Yep.
Any documentation of modifications.
Yep.
And to be quite honest, I don't know anyone on this commission that's got time to review it. So,
No, I don't blame you guys. I mean, I try to put them all, I try to put all those documents in OneDrive, and I try to put any correspondence that I can find from previous agents, but sometimes it's not existent.
well, Charlotte, the thing that concerns me is that first of all, I don't care what the engineer says, right? The engineer says it doesn't make a difference. I don't care. He's on their side, right? We're the other side.
Yep.
We're the side who's trying to say whether or not we believe that this meets the intent of the permit we gave. So for all I know, there used to be a drainage, Tom, what's the term?
I'm not sure what,
You know what, a drainage area that went right into the neighbor's yard and not down the driveway, and now it all goes down the driveway and into
Yeah.
that little thing. How do I
well,
know?
still, I was just looking at this drainage pit on the east side of the house and I can't tell from the photo whether this house is, whether the house is at the same elevation, not the house, but the site that they built the house on is at the same elevation as their neighbor to the east. Because if they're higher than them, that drainage pit's gonna drain right into their yard. It's like 15
Yeah, it would be
feet
nice
low.
if I could see the elevation lines
Yeah.
that go to the next property. I'm gonna
Yeah.
try to see,
Yeah.
is it on the original plan? I can try to pull that up.
So they didn't tell us that they were going to put in this drainage pit in that site, did they?
The additional one?
Yeah,
They told me, we did go through it. I made sure the calculations were all good. But no, sorry, it did not come back to the commission. It was just an additional system that was added
Yeah,
to
so-
enhance the
so-
previous one.
if the top of that drainage pit is at the same elevation as the neighbor's yard, it's not a problem.
Mhm.
It's 5 or 6 feet above it. it's
Yeah,
really close to the property line, it's just gonna go into that drainage pit and then spill right over into their driveway.
I can't see the existing elevate, I can't see, this is the previous plan. I don't, they were proposing it at 66 and 64 on the eastern side. And then existing grade is on this right here, 64, 65, I'm sorry, 66 right here. So this is existing grade, at least on this property. And then this was 68, kind of curving off here. But yeah, they don't
Yeah, okay,
show.
so they may be, well, no, there's a wall there. And I can see that wall on the near map. And so the question is that 68 feet, does it cross over into the neighbor's yard, or is theirs lower?
Yeah, that'd be
Because if they're at a lower elevation on the other, on the east side of that retaining wall, then that drainage pit is it's gonna drain right into the yard.
Let me try to see if I can, unfortunately, it's not on the plan. I was trying to pull up the 2016 plan, but I don't think it would be showing elevation lines to this abutting property.
Yeah. So.
But I know it is, at least from the site conditions, I can pull up the photos if that helps, but
Anytime they're adding these new stormwater infiltration chambers, you really need to be paying attention to, well, okay, once it gets in the ground, where does it go next?
mhm.
Can it just discharge a few feet away into the neighbor's yard? We had remember we had on Black Rock Road, we had quite a lot of discussion about that.
Mhm.
That went on and on and on because that abutter hired an engineer to evaluate it, and kind of the same thing as Forest Ave and Black Rock Road. So some neighbors are aware that when there's a change next door,
Mhm.
that stormwater patterns are going to change, and they could potentially impact them.
Yeah, it looks like based off of this, because this is where about the 68 elevation was, these people do look a tad higher, at least it looks like it goes down a little bit. But unfortunately, I can't see the elevation for this abutting property on any of the plans.
Yeah.
They should be extending those, honestly. They should probably be extending those into abutting properties so we can see where
Well, I
the
think our rules
elevation
and
is.
regulations call for a broader synoptic view of these that just doesn't make it on the plans anymore,
Yeah,
or that it ever did. So we don't have any context.
I know, I'm really trying to find any of the elevation on any of the site plans, and I don't see them for abutting properties.
Yeah.
It's a little concerning. Yeah, I'm pulling up the original, trying to pull up the original plan. Do I not have an electronic copy of it? It's a shame. Fortunately, I don't have an electronic copy of that. I thought I did, but it's yeah, at least from what I looked at the original plan, I don't see grading on the abutting property.
Yeah.
Yeah, this I'll add that to my list of things we really need to see on plans and as-built.
Yeah.
At least when they did the test pit in that area, it all checked out from a soil perspective. So it definitely was sufficient in that specific area to put that additional leaching pit.
Sure, if it'll infiltrate, that's great. That's what we want. But if it discharges 10 feet away into somebody else's property, that doesn't work for the neighbor.
No,
at all.
We need I need to double check this, but do we have, I don't know if we have this in our regulations on guidelines for, not really discharging, and we had concerns about point source discharges and all this other stuff. Like, I don't know if we have any of that in our regulations of how we want these stormwater management systems. Yeah.
We don't.
Well, I
We
think if you
should.
were to ask anybody whether they'd be happy if new construction took place next door to them and suddenly their yard gets flooded. I don't think you'd find anybody in town that would approve of that.
No, and there's a lot of people who show up to hearings. You know, we've seen it with other projects with stormwaters.
The more sophisticated neighbors, and what do? They run out and get an engineer and an attorney.
Right. Whereas the others just, you know, they call in or they suggest a peer review or.
I mean, 580 Jerusalem's an excellent example of that.
Yeah.
Oh, wait,
Okay.
of an unknowing abutter who wasn't wise enough to get an independent opinion. They just listened to the contractor and said, hey, I could fix it. Sure. He really fixed him.
Yep. Okay, well, let's again, use this as a learning tool. But for tonight, let's take a vote for issuing a certificate of compliance for stormwater permit 16-01 at Haystacks Lane. Do I have a second?
Second.
Having a motion, second, we'll take a roll call. Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisner, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 6-0. I'd like to deviate from the agenda here. I do see one unknown person, Jack Moore, in the attendees. Jack, are you here for any particular conversation tonight? Nope.
Muted.
If
You're
not,
muted, Jack.
if not, Jack, I'm going to move on to other stuff, but are you here for a reason? But you're muted.
If they're calling in from their phone, they may or may not be able to, I don't know. Sometimes people have issues when they're calling in on their phone. Jack, can you hear us?
You can have him raise his hand if he does have something to say.
Yeah, could you
Okay.
just hit that on the Zoom, Jack, if you have something to. Okay.
Okay. Well,
I'm going to assume not then. I'd like to jump, Charlotte, to the OOC special condition and the fee schedule revision.
yeah.
'Cause I don't,
So did everyone look at the Kathy and I believe Tom, I think you guys had seen the special condition revisions. I can pull those up real quick, but did everyone else get a chance to look
Yep.
at them?
No,
No, sorry.
I said no, I didn't have time.
Okay.
I'm deferring to Tom.
Okay.
He's my legal counsel.
Oh, watch out. We'll both go to jail.
Sorry, I gotta find them real quick. I'm not hooked up to one of my drives when I do remote, so I'm sorry, I have to get them. Let me pull them up real quick. But I guess Tom and Kathy, when you look through them, I think Kathy, you had one comment. But basically, sorry, while I'm talking, I did want to make them more clear. And I added some stuff that I think could be good for, hold on, sorry. It's easier if I show them to you guys. I'm just pulling them up real quick. Well, not real quick, it's loading. But I guess Kathy, did you have any additional comments from when you last looked at them?
No, I read through it and just made a few comments.
Okay. So I wanted to, kind of clear up some of this language. And this is to make it even clearer that no change in the plans or work activities under this filing is permissible without prior approval from Concom. So it's just kind of just emphasizing, we really need to see changes in writing before they're done. And then,
Can wait a minute.
Yeah.
Can you, if you're gonna do that?
Yep.
Can you say something to the effect that no changes?
Sorry.
That's all right. It should say that they have to be submitted in writing with an accompanying plan. And that way it's documented. It's not this, it's not a lawyer sitting here 5 years after the case saying, oh no, here's this email that had this,
Yeah. So this is we actually have two conditions that say this. This is the first part, that shall make written inquiry to CCC. Do we want to kind of clarify this? Like the applicant shall submit in writing to the
A-
CCC?
And in plan. They shall submit in writing and in plan.
Oops.
Or accompanied by a plan
Yeah.
Okay.
and accompanied by a plan. Mhm.
Okay. So yeah, that was really just, and also I kind of just replaced must with shall throughout all the conditions. And so I'm clarifying,
I don't understand. I don't know that.
There's a legal distinction.
Oh, is there?
yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
shall is a lot harder to fight in court than must, apparently. It's kind of hilarious, but yeah, so that's why a lot of conditions will say shall. There's
Okay.
there's no wiggle room with that word, but apparently there is for must. But this is something that I come up with a lot. People ask me when they can take out the erosion control barrier, and I'm saying until all work is completed. You know, I have to make that repeatedly clear, so I want to put it in the order. This is the other one, by the way, that you know, kind of emphasizes only site alterations as approved in writing by the CCC on the approved plan. You know, need to, you know, so this kind of allows us to enter the date of the plan, when the filings were received, what the final version was. I also add, if there's a landscape plan, obviously, or any additional plans, I add that in this condition. So it very clearly documents who it was, when it was approved, and what the version of approval was. It also says it in the order. And then this was a condition that I just kind of wanted to combine because I thought it could just make a little bit more sense right here. And then this one is repetitive with condition 24. You know, again, just saying changes in writing. So that's why I combined it in this one up here. And then a little bit further down, I added this because this is often what we say, but it's not in the order. And I would like to put that in here to emphasize that all plantings within the resource area buffer zone shall be native from our approved planting lists. Does anyone want me to change the wording here? Do you guys not want it in here, or?
Perfect.
Okay. And then I wanted to
Wait,
add
wait.
resource area.
Can we? I don't know if we can do it.
Yep.
But I just wonder if we can extend. You know, can we extend that beyond it? I guess we don't have jurisdiction, do we?
Well,
Extend it beyond.
If they
beyond the
agree
buffer
to
zone?
this and no one appeals it.
You mean extend the planting, extend that requirement of native plants beyond the buffer zones?
Yes.
Okay,
If they're submitting a notice of intent and they agree to these template conditions.
I don't know. It's just. I mean, I'm specifically thinking about Black Horse, right? So they're outside the buffer zone, and then they plant, you know, 1 million arborvitaes on some, and so you have this beautiful woodland upland. You got the riverfront on the other side, and you have like this horrible landscape in between.
So yeah, unfortunately, since that one doesn't need a notice of intent.
No, I know it. I know it doesn't, but I'm just saying if it did need a notice of intent,
Yeah,
you know. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's.
maybe we can keep that in the back of our brains as a condition for anytime someone submits an NOI. If we wanted to, would you be willing to plant native species for this project? And if they say yes, we put it as a condition. And then at least with this, it's already templated that at least in the buffer zones and resource areas, they have to obviously plant native. But if we ask them, would you be willing to plant native for the whole entire site? We could.
Yeah,
You know, ask them to do
it's
that.
a tough one though.
It is, yeah. And then also after the permit's closed out, they could technically, outside of the buffer zones, rip out all those natives and plant
Yeah.
a bunch of.
Which does happen,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Hmm?
Yeah.
All right,
Um,
never mind. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's a very good question. It's definitely valid in a lot of our cases. And I just wanted to clarify this, the resource area or the buffer zone for no pesticides, herbicides, fertilizers, et cetera. I don't know why that wasn't in there, but I just wanted to emphasize that they're not allowed in any resource area or buffer
Fine.
zone.
Hold
And-
on, could you flip back up again?
Yep.
No use of or fertilizer allowed. Only low nitrogen. You just said you couldn't use them. Or is that
Wait.
at all locations? Okay.
We're saying should
you, yeah.
outside of the buffer zones.
Yeah.
But yeah, inside the buffer zone and resource area, absolutely not.
You know, if you want to make this a bit more cutting,
Mhm.
you need to technically define what low nitrogen means.
I can do that.
I think, and somehow we should be able to research that, because low nitrogen, it means 101 different things. to
Yeah.
100 people walking by, you know.
No, that's true. I mean, we can definitely try to define that. Do we want
I
to put
think-
that in
I
here
think
or?
we should look in, we should look in it and put a figure or to quantify it. It needs a
Okay.
metric.
Okay, I'll,
And,
I'll add that.
and what's more, slow release.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Yeah, and store-bought or homemade.
Yeah,
Or made by your horses?
should we do synthetic or organic fertilizers?
oh, you're getting to be, you're getting to be,
No.
you're a tree hugger when you say that.
Sorry.
I don't know. Most
Organic means
all-
about the same as.
Most all the
nitrogen.
slow release fertilizers are organic, all right? They're
Yeah.
farm-based materials, so.
Okay,
Like-
so only low and or slow release nitrogen fertilizers should be used in areas outside of the 100-foot buffer.
Not and or, it's gotta be low and. yeah,
And slow release, okay. I didn't know if all low nitrogen fertilizers were time release, that's why I wasn't sure.
What
yeah,
was
no.
your question- what was your question again, Charlotte?
What, are all low nitrogen fertilizers slow or time released?
No. No. I mean, most of the synthetic fertilizers are not slow or time release.
Okay, we
Okay.
can say and then, just to be like, we
Yeah.
want low nitrogen and slow released.
Yeah.
Perfect, okay, and then I'll try to find a number or something. Yeah, okay,
Can you, sorry,
Yep.
I'm belaboring it. Can you say
That's
no,
okay.
no nitrogen, just so there's no ambiguity for low nitrogen? Or is that too strict? No nitrogen.
They have to have nitrogen or they're not fertilizers,
Okay.
all right? I mean. call
is
it-
that
I
the
know they-
primary
they-
ingredient?
They make the stuff that has the zero in the front, but I guess that
I've,
doesn't work.
I've never seen a zero nitrogen fertilizer that's ever done anything.
Okay,
Well, it's true that but some of them can be really low. So if you're, for example, using bone meal, it does have about 1% nitrogen in it, but
Mhm.
it's 10% phosphorus.
Yeah,
Bone meal is not really a fertilizer, right? It's
Yes,
an
it is.
amendment.
What do you mean it's not?
Just what I said. It's an amendment, all right? You need nitrogen to stimulate plant growth.
Well,
Right.
you need nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium.
Okay, you guys can talk about this over tea tomorrow.
I'll try to add this, and I'll figure out if there's a value or something we can define it as, like, I don't know, 5.
Okay,
Yeah,
You know,
Um,
the real key thing is the nitrogen. That's really what tends to go over the top and
Mm-hmm.
you're polluting.
so this is something that I will say is honestly almost never done for any project. I tell every single contractor, builder, engineer, take photos, take everything, document everything, send it to me and or the engineer and or building inspector. The amount of people who actually do it, I would say, is very, very minimal. So I didn't know if we wanted something like this still in the order or if we just want to keep it here to hold them to that, and I can just keep repeating myself. But, at least in terms of the as-built, you can see that the engineers put like 5 photos on there of the final conditions, but unfortunately, I'm rarely sent comprehensive photos for every single project for a permit that we issue.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's something we want to change here.
I wouldn't take it out.
Yeah,
Maybe there will be a few people that do follow the directions, and that will help you out a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you-
especially for the
Take it
stormwater
out.
systems. I always tell people, I need to see pictures and the engineer needs to see pictures, or you need to call us and we need to go on site and all take pictures of the infiltration systems before they're buried. So a lot of that is definitely critical for stormwater permits or any stormwater components for a project, but that's really the only time I probably ever get photos. is when people are like, hey, I'm ready to bury the system. Here's a picture. I'm like, okay, don't do it yet. We'll call the engineer. We'll make sure it all looks good before you bury it. So some of them definitely do contact me. But yeah, it rarely happens for notice of intents. It does happen a little bit more for stormwater permits.
Well, it will happen more often if you hit them on the knuckles.
Yeah.
And why are you going ahead? I have no photographs. Stop work. They'll start complying with it once you start doing that.
That's true. I could do that. But at least for me, I have the most important conditions that I try to emphasize is you have to meet on site with me. I have stopped work because I've said you didn't meet on site with me. So this is one of the ones that I always stress. And then same thing with recording the order. I've told people you can't start until I get recording proof, install the erosion control. So maybe I'll add this one to my list of like, you got to send me photos. Otherwise, if I don't get updates.
You shall send me.
You shall.
You know, in this age of iPhones, sending photographs, that's so easy.
Yeah, I give them my
It's
card.
that easy
They have
as
my
making
card.
a copy on your machine.
Maybe you should make a list of when they should take photos.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, be specific, I can't speak.
Specific, yeah.
Yeah,
You know, start
think we
with
should do that.
start with
good idea.
document the erosion control, document the staking of wetlands, document this, document that, and then
Yep.
Step one, step.
Good
two.
idea.
That's a good idea. Okay, let me work on that.
Well done, Mr. Chairman.
That's a good idea. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep.
Actually, I want to do plantings. I'm going to come back to plantings because I think that's important for mitigation. So when they first install the mitigation plantings, they should probably be taking photos of those and sending them to me. Okay, so, okay, good idea. Thank you. That's much more reasonable versus just saying send photos. Okay. So I combined this, by the way, the reviews to be ordered with supervising professionals. I added that right up here because it all applies to the on-site meeting where I have to review the order. I have to make sure that everyone understands it before they begin the work. This one I added to the other condition further up. So I didn't delete this, by the way. If it's in green, it means I've deleted it and put it further up here. So I added this one up here to combine it, just to make, a little bit more consistent and less repetitive. So this is one, this is the big one that I think we should kind of look at. So this, the original condition wrote basically semi-annual reports need to be submitted to the agent. Again, this is something that literally never happens. I do not get reports twice a year from every single contractor for every single project. So I wanted to kind of tailor this to be more realistic and also emphasize what reports we really want to see. I think a lot of that comes down to mitigation plantings because I'm constantly, for projects and COCs, I'm like, what's the final status of the mitigation plantings? And all the engineers are like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, we need to know. That was half the project. So I wanted to make this kind of really clear that all restoration work should be done by hand, no heavy machinery to the greatest extent possible.
No, not to the greatest extent possible. What's that mean?
Well, sometimes we have to allow heavy machinery if there's no choice.
Why?
Why?
Like
Why?
if the house already exists in the 50-foot buffer.
If the house already,
So like if the house is already like literally right up against a salt marsh or something, and I can take it out.
How about if you just say, work by hand with no heavy machinery unless
Authorized
know,
by the commission? I'm
authorized by the agent or something like that.
gonna say commission, because we can put it in our variance request.
yeah, that's okay.
So any restoration work in the buffer zones or whatever within, I wanted to reach out to you guys of, how many days of completion basically do we want to see a report from a qualified professional in writing and submitted for 3 consecutive years. So this is a condition that I don't know if you guys want to take more time to look at it, but I really just wanted to set the stage here for any project that has any sort of mitigation plantings or restoration work. We really need to get those reports within a certain time. We need
60
to get
days.
60 days, okay. And then we, the owner or applicant representative shall provide annual monitoring reports from a qualified professional in writing for 3 consecutive years at minimum, describing status of plantings. Each year, the PERPL should be submitted no later than this many. And then within 2 years, this is actually a standard mitigation kind of project success rate. So I don't know if you guys want to change this, but this is just what I've seen from other types of projects, that if you don't get 75% success in 2 years, they have to submit revised or new restoration plans in writing for approval, which may include
What does success mean?
success as in like the plants didn't die and there's the coverage. So the growth and the coverage.
Oh,
Um,
these spindly arborvitaes.
survival.
These
Yeah.
spindly arborvitaes that are not growing because they're not getting watered and they're half brown.
Mhm.
But they're still alive after 3 years. Is that
Sure.
success or not?
No, that's a good question. Do we want to say survival or just, I was mostly going by 2 years, 75% success, but yeah, that's a good question of do you want to break it down with growth or survival or all the above? But this is normally a typical, if you don't get 2 years, if you're not seeing 75% success in 2 years, basically it's kind of considered a failure and you have to regroup. But I can look at this more. This is just
I
kind of
think
like my
success is
suggestion.
better. Failure is, I think what you've already got here, 75% growth success is better than just failure.
Okay.
Well, I mean, why don't you just say all plants after 2 years must be alive and thriving? Forget about a figure. All plants should be alive and thriving after 2 years. Or are we being? Any dead
Yeah, that's a good point.
any dead plants he should replace anyways.
Yeah, I don't know where professionals get 75%. That's just what I've seen on like restoration plans. They usually always say 75% at least. I don't know why I don't know where they came to that number. I was trying to find the literature for that, but that's just the number that I saw,
It
but
sounds
I'm
like
happy
it
to
was
look into it
written
more.
by Merrill Engineers.
No.
Merrill
I was looking
Engineers
at
gave you the
I was looking at
75%.
wetland stuff, like wetlands restoration replication plans. Most of the replication plans, at least that I was looking at, usually say 75% or greater for success within 2 years. And if you don't see that within 2 years, it's basically considered a failure and you have to come back and regroup with the commission, with an updated plan, with new NOI, whatever it is. But we haven't really seen a replication plan yet, at least since I've been here. We could have seen one, but it was obviously taken off the board. Yeah, I can research that number more thoroughly. That was just the number I kept seeing, so I put it in here.
Well, I'd say if you've seen it in more than one, you've seen it in several, then maybe that's some sort of standard
Some
wetland scientists use. Why don't you ask a wetland scientist?
I'll ask him. Yeah, I'm gonna call my wetlands guys
Yeah.
because sometimes it changes, like 75 within the first 2, 85 and 3, 95 and 5 years or something. So some of them even go out really far in terms of what they want to see. So the Howard Gleason one, for example, was like 85 the first year, 90 the second year, 95 the third year. So that was a much more aggressive plan than what I saw. But at least from the wetlands restoration and replication, it was 75% in 2 years. I don't know where they get that number though. But I can, yeah, I'll call them. I'll
Yeah.
make sure this is
Yeah.
literature backed.
Yeah, just make sure that we can verify that is something of a standard. Somebody has it as a
Yeah.
standard.
If I was paying for the plants and only 75% survived, I'd
That's true.
be ripping mad. all
That
right?
is true.
I would make sure the other 25 were replaced. That's all.
That is very true. Do you want to say like greater than 90%?
No, let's stay with whatever the industry standard, if there is one, is. We'll worry about the 75 or 80 or 90.
Yeah.
Let's see if that language is used.
Okay.
first.
And do we want no later than, sometimes they give a day, sometimes they give an actual date, like no later than the December 1st of each year, which is usually the end of the fall planting season or something. Do we want to specify a time frame here or just say that they need to be submitted each year?
Oh, boy.
Um,
And you'll know by the end of the year. You'll know by the end of that year whether they made it, right?
Okay.
They should be alive and clearly alive come the fourth quarter.
December 31st of each year?
I think so, yeah.
Eric, wouldn't it make more sense to make sure they survived their first winter? So maybe
Well,
maybe
we're
have them
talking about,
report March 1st or.
yeah, but
maybe
we're talking
make-
about, I would say the reports after 2 years, Tom. That's the way I understood it, Charlotte.
These are I did the monitoring reports, but I guess we can say, when do we want the first report? Because I did within 60 days of completion of the restoration work, so they have to submit something in 60 days. Usually I hope they would obviously submit it to me at some point.
Yeah, but 60 days is nothing. If they plant in September.
Yeah.
Right? There's no challenge for the plant to get to the end of November.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The first challenge is to get through our winter.
Yeah.
Right.
Do we want to say
No,
120 days?
Isn't that first report just about them actually that it's complete?
Yeah, like giving it to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
If that's the case, that's.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it begs the question, Eric, do we want to say when we should get the first report in terms of growing seasons, or just give them a day when they're finished?
Chris made the point that the 60 days is that the project's been done.
Yeah,
and completed. All
Yeah,
right.
at least the mitigation work, yes.
Right.
Okay. And then for 3 years, we want the status of the plantings, each for 3 consecutive years, describing in detail. Yeah. Do we want to say anything else? I just said status of the plantings. I don't know if we want to say anything else.
Well, you are going to research that 75% figure.
Yes,
So
yes.
that comes into play there, I think.
Yeah, okay. And then I added, obviously, if they don't see this, they may have to submit a revised or new plan in writing for approval, which may include an amended or new filing. And if the project is not completed by the expiration date of the order conditions, the owner shall provide in writing explanation of why this is the case. I mean, usually if the order's expired, if they're working past the expiration date, it's a cease and desist. I don't know if we want to keep that. Nobody really ever sends me a letter saying, I didn't do it. They would come to me saying, can I still do it? And I would say no, at least for an NOI. But do you want to keep this?
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
fine.
It
And
doesn't.
that was
hurt.
it? Yeah, that was, oh, sorry, it's not it. This is the pool thing, by the way. So this is our standard condition for best management practices for pools.
Good.
Do we want to write at, Chris, that this shall survive the issuance of a COC? In the language?
Well, we do want them to keep using
Yeah,
best practices, don't we?
yeah.
Do we
I
have the
just caught that,
authority?
I'm sorry.
Do we have the authority to make them do that?
I don't know.
Well, once they have a COC, the order of conditions it's no longer in effect, right?
Correct, unless, except for the ongoing conditions.
So let's not extend it if we can't.
I don't know if we can.
We
I
have
just,
no authority to do it.
I don't know. I can look into it.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think if the applicant's willing to obviously perpetually maintain it, then they're required to do it at least for stormwater, but I'd have to look it up for pools. Do you want me to look into that, Chris? Because I feel like
Yeah,
there's so many
yeah, look
projects
in-
with pools.
Yep, look into it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's a long condition. And then this was a request, we added this, if it's a dock project, seasonal ramp dock floats are to be stored at a suitable upland location outside of all protected resource areas. That's copied and pasted from our regulations.
Why are you saying if applicable?
Because not all projects are seasonal dock ramp projects. Like
Yeah.
these are like, if applicable is like if it's a dock project.
Tell me, if applicable, it will not be in the final copy, will it?
It is for this one, like, because not every project has a dock, but we
Yeah.
can take it out if we want to.
Well, I mean, I think seasonal dock ramp and floats are to be stored. If you have it, it's got to be moved. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know why we put applicable. It's
Okay.
actually words that don't.
I was
seem-
just trying to clarify that not every NOI we issue or order we issue has a dock component to the project. So that's why I said if applicable, if like the project has a dock. But I can take it out.
Well,
It's like not every project has a pool, you know, that's why I was trying to write if.
Yeah,
don't
I
have
don't
a
think you should
dock-
take it out. I think
you
that
don't
makes
have-
sense, Charlotte.
Hmm?
That makes sense, if applicable, does make sense.
well, if you don't have a dock or a pool, of course, you're not going to apply the law, but
That's true. I mean, I'll do whatever you guys want. I can keep it or leave it. Doesn't matter to me.
Tom, it's your call.
Well, I don't care that much. You're the one that brought it
It
up,
doesn't matter.
Eric.
Okay.
Okay, and then this is the last one. This is just about heavy equipment. So the heavy equipment language that I put in the condition above was about restoration work specifically. This is the condition that says in general, no heavy equipment vehicles or trailers are allowed within any resource area within 50 feet buffer unless specifically approved by the commission.
And I would not define or try to define what the word heavy means.
Nope, we're not going to. That can be our judgment call. No.
Yeah.
So there's one more thing that you and I and Chris talked about, and that was to put up a construction fence around the canopy of all trees that we've identified should not be damaged during construction.
Oh,
Because we've been seeing these excavators tear up trees that we specifically said we wanted them to be preserved.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
bang
and then
into
it's like,
them.
oh no, something happened to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that
So,
also, Tom, does that also mean that any excavation has to be at least 15 foot from the base of the tree in order to avoid root damage?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's it, you know, if you tear half the bark off, it's
Yeah.
pretty bad. If you ruin the roots, that's bad too.
Yeah.
So the idea is to get these trees that we want to remain in place to survive. And so we need to have more protection for them because right now, at least some of our excavators are totally ignoring this. And we've been on site visits where we know we're looking at trees that are just standing dead, even though they still have leaves on them and sap flowing, but they've been damaged so badly that they're not going to make it. So if we want to protect the trees, we got to.
yeah, no, I
Take it
agree.
back.
So how do we want to word this? And Chris, I'll defer to you. What kind of, because I've seen a couple different barriers. I've seen like the orange construction fences, like just wrapped around
No.
a tree. I don't think that does anything.
Nope.
But
Well,
we're talking a
no.
physical construction fence, like a chain link fence that's like brought in and boxed around.
Well, it could be as simple as
Wood. Use like a piece of 2x4 and wrap it, no?
well, the only way that works, I'm causing a lot of feedback, sorry. The only way that works is if you also put a big mat of gravel over the roots, because otherwise they can come right up to the tree and they just compact all the soil around the roots anyway. So I think what you should say is that a construction fence or protective barrier shall be installed at a minimum 15 feet from the trunk of any tree to remain.
Do you want to put a
then-
size, minimum size, Chris? Like 6 inches, 12 inches? Because there could be a lot of saplings, for example.
Yeah, but so what? And then if come up with some verbiage which says if the project cannot be constructed because of of required fences, the contractor shall meet on site with the agent to discuss alternative methods for protecting trees.
It's good.
And then you and I and whomever
Yeah.
can talk about different ways of actually doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if
I want to
somebody
learn
really
all
can
the
damage
tricks of the
these trees
trade.
From bringing their high lift in there too close and knocking branches off, digging the trunks, crushing the roots. Exposing.
Do we want to add the gravel base?
No, yeah, you only need the gravel base if you're gonna get closer to the tree. So
Yeah.
that's something you can talk about if they decide that they
Okay.
can't just put up a fence and stay away from it.
Okay,
Of course, you probably, if you have the 15-foot fence encircling the tree, you probably don't need the gravel, do you?
No, you don't.
Yeah.
But if, you know, if they want to save a tree and it's 4 feet from the foundation and they have to
Yeah.
get an excavator in there, then the next best thing is to do what Chris said, which is you actually wrap the tree with a bunch of 2x4s to
Mhm.
protect the bark. And then you put like a nice 6-inch layer of crushed stone on the ground. So you're preventing compaction on top of the roots.
yeah, and I'm seeing this a lot, unfortunately, with stormwater permits where you just see the damage from,
Yeah.
a lot of it is actually the installation of utilities. So when they dig those trenches, I'm
Yeah.
seeing roots coming up everywhere, and I would have to, go to contractors and be like, hey, you need to put something over this, you need to fill it. When are you gonna fill it? These roots are exposed, it's gonna hurt the tree. But, unfortunately, a lot of this is from a stormwater permit where people argue you don't have jurisdiction, and it's getting really hard for me to, keep hearing that.
Yeah.
What if that condition though just says they have to provide a tree protection plan that is approved by the agent, so that it's,
Yeah.
that's what they make us do in Boston for trees.
Yeah, that's good.
Actually,
Well,
that's a great idea.
They won't do it, but that's good.
They'll do it if Charlotte
I'll-
chases them.
All you need is to
Yep.
keep that shell in there.
That'll be submitted to should I say to the conservation agent or to the commission? Do we want to see this with NOIs? Right now, it'll just be in the order conditions template, not in the regulations, but we'll definitely try to make sure we can put that in the regulations too.
Yeah, this is a good dry run for removing the redundancies and inconsistencies in our regulations.
I honestly agree. Yeah. And also with this, if nobody appeals the order, it's final, so I can enforce it.
Mhm. That's good. Yeah.
Do we want to include all this and just keep it?
Yeah. Yep,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay. Great.
At the very least, it gives them an idea of what they better put in their plan.
Yeah. Yeah. I can start kind of softly enforcing this, obviously through the order saying, I need a tree protection plan. And then we can add it to the regulations saying, we're going to start requiring this as part of our submission, that we need to see a plan for all these trees that are proposed to be saved.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's critical. Honestly, I've been researching tree stuff all week because I don't know if I want to say this on a recorded meeting, but there's just been a lot going on with trees, and I really want to make sure I want to revise the regulations to match our concerns with tree protection for NOIs and for stormwater,
Do you
because
have a thought as to what form a tree protection plan would take? Like individual trees, size of trees, is it gonna be a map? Is it a diagram?
I think we should basically see like a kind of like a markup of the site plan's existing conditions with all the trees highlighted with a detail of the protective barriers. So kind of like if someone were to add a detail of a construction entrance, we would want to see that for trees to be protected.
Yeah.
Um,
All the engineers have them. They use them in other places.
Mhm.
You just put a detail of whatever you're putting around the tree, and then you
Yeah.
put TP1 on each tree for tree protection #1 or whatever.
Oh, that's good.
That's
And they do
great.
that in Boston? Well, is that like, is that
Oh,
a,
yeah.
yeah,
Very
like a
serious.
bylaw thing, or is that a conservation commission thing, or?
There's a whole tree warden in Boston.
Wow.
That's all
They do it
Yeah,
everywhere. everywhere. We just don't do it
Moratorium even
here.
on private property of cutting down trees and in Cambridge, even on
Wow.
private property.
Great.
6-inch caliper is there.
Mhm.
I
Maybe we
think
should change that to our
That should
stormwater
be our
bylaws,
threshold too,
Yeah.
6 inches.
6 inches.
I think you need to get the Cambridge Guide for tree protection, Charlotte.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
don't even think Cambridge does 6 inches anymore. I think they do any tree like over 3 inches or something.
Might be.
Also, I was told that towns like Dedham have recently redone a lot of their regulations about stormwater and trees. And I was actually going to touch base with the Dedham agent. There's a new, just so you guys have a quick update from the town, there is now a sustainability coordinator, and she's working with Hingham and Cohasset. I met with her this week, and we had a nice long conversation about trees, and she gave me some good resources. So I'm going to be looking into that. But yeah, 6 inches, I think if that's a good reasonable number, we should definitely revise our regulations to say 6 inches for stormwater.
I mean, it's especially critical for the really slow growing trees.
Absolutely.
You were right that, we're a tree city.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, I checked. I was happy to hear that. Also, I kind of poked town manager to be like, hey, can we apply for a grant? Because I think we can jump in on open space with that. You know, if you guys are already thinking about tree surveys, we could definitely try to see if we can get a grant. And Chris, I don't know if you want to talk offline, but the applications are due, at least the notice of intent to apply is due October 1st. So I was going to look at that with the sustainability coordinator. Maybe we can, she said she was going to reach out to open space, a few other departments and see what their shared interests were. And, you know, come up with a plan of maybe what type of grant we'd like to apply for.
Great.
Yeah.
A large one.
There is a tree policy too that went into effect last February.
Oh, really? For wait, sorry, where?
For Cohasset.
Really? Where's
Yeah.
the tree policy?
I'll send it to you.
Okay. Is that for open space or?
No, it's for like DPW. It was kind of done in coordination with open space.
Very interesting. Okay. I did not know that. I
Could
wish
you
I knew
send
that.
us all a copy of that? I'd like to read it also, please.
Also,
Great. Yeah, no, I was very motivated to do a lot of tree research this week because, like I said, I did not like what I was hearing.
Okay.
Charlotte, can we get on the fee schedule?
Yep.
So the fee schedule is still a very rough draft, but basically, I'll just give you guys the number one revision I want to make. There is an administrative review category that is not enforceable by the bylaws. And the original agent apparently did it all the time under much scrutiny from various different parties. I want to take that out. Number one, because everyone confuses it with our true administrative review category, which is category 1. The application fee is $750 for all administrative stormwater permits. So sometimes engineers submit the $100 and I have to awkwardly tell them, I need more money, dude. That one I wanted to take out. And then the fee schedule language does not match up with the language in the bylaw. So that's really what I want to change. I talked to the town manager and he said we can change it and just vote on it during a public meeting. I asked if it had to go to town meeting and he said no. And I'm not proposing to change the amounts other than just removing the $100 category, which isn't enforceable through the bylaws. And I looked at other stormwater bylaws and regulations for other towns. We're actually quite strict, but I was just pointed in the direction of Dedham. So I will look at Dedham's, but for us, we're pretty strict. A lot of towns only do like stormwater permits for projects that alter like over an acre. And it's like, oh, that's a big difference from what we have. So, but yeah, I will start revising I have some drafted language in OneDrive right now, if you guys would like to take a look at it. But basically I'm trying to make the category language consistent with the bylaws because it's throwing a lot of professionals off. They're misfiling under the wrong categories. And even the most experienced engineers who should know better still do it. So I don't know if they're, just busy or if they're just, I don't know, but I need to change that from a
Okay.
filing. Yep. So it's a very rough draft in OneDrive right now if you guys would like to look at it, but it's not final yet. So I guess, yeah, just let me know if you have any comments.
Okay. Are there any agent updates that are critical?
No, unless somebody sees one on the list that's extremely interesting. But I'll give you guys a quick update on 110 Beach Street just because you may see some activity. Unfortunately, National Grid has to cut down some really large oaks that are hitting the primary. And unfortunately, it's an exempt type of activity, but they're right on beach in front of 110 Beach Street. So if you guys see a crew there, I know about it.
What are they hitting?
Taking
The
the whole
electrical
tree
lines?
down?
There's 3 oak trees that one of them is almost on top of the primary and they need to cut
Primary
that
what?
out.
Primary wire.
Utility lines, sorry,
Okay.
the utility poles and
What about
utility lines.
Those are 1200 volts, is that right?
Mhm.
Charlotte? Yeah.
Yeah.
The sparks fly when you hit the primaries.
Mhm.
Smell
So,
nice. It's like a barbecue.
yeah, National Grid normally doesn't take down trees unless they absolutely have to. So I talked to their arborist about it and he said, unfortunately, this is a necessity from our standpoint to maintain the power lines. And I was like, okay, but I'm sad about it, but those oak trees are definitely sitting practically on top of it.
Does 110 Beach Street know it?
I would hope so. I can double check with National Grid, but normally they do obviously ask for property permission when they cut down trees. They did it all the time at Jerusalem Road, but I'll double check for this one just to make sure that everyone's aware. But yeah, if anyone's driving down Beach Street, in front of 110. Yeah, you'll see the oak trees. They're right on top of it. But other than that, if
Any
you guys want-
48-hour issues?
No.
Were you able to pull out or find the permit plan for the South Main Street
Yeah.
garage project?
That was one of my updates. The plan that we approved is dated May 19th. It went to zoning in June. The only thing that was added to page 4 or 5 of the site plan was like a zoning RGFA table. So no proposed changes from zoning other than just adding that table to page 4 or 5 of the site plan. So the current version of the site plan is dated June 11th, 2021, which was approved by zoning with that updated table.
Are you sure?
I can, I asked the engineer and zoning.
Do you have a copy of the plan? Because I'll show you
Yeah.
what I was told was the issue.
Okay. So this is the, do you want the current plan that I have, or do you want the one we approved?
The one we approved,
Okay.
because you just told me there was no difference except for,
Yeah. Existing construction entrance proposed. So this is, I believe, what was modified for zoning review, this zoning table. So this is the version that we approved, dated May 19th. And then Chris,
Right.
sorry, where were the changes? You said something about the parking?
what zoning had told
I'm
me
coming.
Mhm.
was that
Thank you. Want a glass?
this parking was not legit,
Okay,
because, and it might even be more than that, but there's
Okay.
there's a setback for parking lots.
mm-hmm,
And these guys were arguing that they somehow had, it might even be farther back than that, but somehow they thought they had grandfather that allowed
Uh-huh.
it. So
Sorry, I'm not trying to move it on purpose. I was trying to pull up both plans to
that's
look at that
that's all
area.
right. Anyway, that's what I was told at some point.
Okay, I'll talk to zoning then. Because I talked to John, I talked to the engineer. I didn't talk directly to Cassandra because that was before her time, but I'll talk to her too, and I'll look at the minutes from zoning. And would they have moved this back? Is that what you're saying? Or would they have
Well,
changed?
I think the problem was, or how it was explained to me, is if you couldn't have these first couple parking places,
Mhm,
and I don't remember how many there were,
yeah,
but I think it affected like 4 parking places, three over there and 1 on the other side.
okay,
And then they didn't have enough parking.
weird, okay,
So then and that's what zoning was dealing with. And so they kept saying, they'll be back to see you. They'll be back to see you. So,
mm-hmm. I'm looking at the tables here. So this was the plan that we approved. Existing proposed 17 spaces, including 1 handicap. So they were required to have 33. So it looked like there was 36 for existing, required 33 for proposed, and then, I'm sorry, required, and then 17. This table's a little confusing because it's
yeah, it
saying
is. It is. It's 'cause
proposed. Hold on. Can I pull up the 611 plan to kind of look at the 2 plans? So 3610, 3317. I'll pull up the June one. Oops. Sorry, give me a. 3610, 3317. But this changed. This number changed from the table. This was like 36 and 33, and then these 2 numbers were different. So they definitely changed the table. But then does that change the?
I don't know, they said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then however many in the back. I mean, maybe they gave him a variance. I don't know.
17, yeah.
17, that's what they, so maybe they gave him the variance, but maybe they didn't. I mean, that's what it all came down to.
Mhm. Okay.
So,
Yeah, what I want to make sure is like if they increased or decreased this space, that would definitely be a change that impacts us. But if they're just changing the lines here, but they're still working within the same limit of work. All right, I'll look into that more, but
Can
at least from
you-
what I was told, they just changed those tables.
can you zoom out a little bit? All right. I just, I think when they brought that plan to zoning said, like, you have to have more parking. And so I
Okay.
don't know, I don't know. Maybe,
No,
maybe,
yeah, I'll look at the
maybe
zoning-
maybe they let them go,
I'll look at the zoning
Mm.
decision. That'll be really helpful for me to kind of see what they wanted. Because if someone just tells me the table's updated, it's like, that's not telling me if impervious decreased or increased or anything like that. But at least from the site plans, it looked like it was the same limit of work.
It looks the same, but if.
Yeah.
You
No, but yeah, I mean, like Tom said, I mean, these plans are overlaid in CAD and we don't have coordinates necessarily for all these structures and areas and yeah,
well,
they're going,
the neighbor on that property was very vocal.
yes. Yes.
Now, but that doesn't mean anything, obviously, because, there's these hidden rules, as Tom was mentioning earlier, that if someone doesn't get a lawyer and speak up, sometimes the town just lets it slide through. And this might be a case where it just slid through and the person didn't,
Yeah,
the person didn't file the little piece of paper that says, I object, and all of a sudden they don't care.
So I think I'm pretty positive, the abutter who you might be referring to, unfortunately, I don't believe appealed the zoning decision, our order of conditions, or the building permit. So it's kind of tough when you're in those situations after the fact and it's like the appeal period has passed. And if you're that vocal, you will be following those permits very closely and you'll be knowing when they're issued. You'll be, obviously bothering the town saying, have you issued the permit yet? But
The town needs to stop waiting for some abutter to say something.
right, no, I agree. It's unfortunately, it's a common scenario where people are upset and I'm like, well, what did you do at the time when the permit was issued? I did nothing. Oh, okay. Do you guys want me to go through the others or just tag them onto the next meeting? No, okay.
Next meeting.
Hey, we did really well.
Unless someone else wants to hear.
No, let's move on. Next
I'm
meeting.
not I'm not
Okay.
offended. No,
Make a
but
mo-
we did
make
really
a-
well, guys. Look at this. It's
make-
9:49.
Make a
That's great.
motion to close the
Second.
hearing.
Trees.
Second,
What'd you say, Chris?
It was a bad night for trees.
You know,
Always is. All right. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
thanks,
Yeah.
guys. Have a great
Bye.
weekend.
Happy cold weekend.
Yeah, stay warm.
Watch
Bye,
the-
guys.
Bye.
Faucet's dripping.
Take care.